Hello and welcome to Podcast 572. I am your host, as always, Kyle. I'm joined by my two friends, Dan and Matt. And we have a lot to talk about today because it was kind of like E3, not E3 week this past week.
Yeah, many fake
many
E3.
things. Like there was also some other crazy news that happened this week, and we'll get to it in the news section. But there's just a lot to go over, and we have a lot to talk about what we've been playing. I've had a shit ton of stuff to talk about that I've been playing, but for the first time, we've all played the same fucking video game. So we're going to talk
within the same
about
2-week period. Yeah,
within the same 2-week period. So, and two of us actually played it together. We're going to talk about Tmnt Shredder's Revenge. So, I don't think any of us dislike the game.
No, I think it's great.
I think it's fantastic.
It's really good.
It's a tremendous ode to those like Super Nintendo Genesis era Turtles games for sure. It's it's kind of crazy when you think about it. It's taken this long for them to do something like this. Like they've had like re-releases of some of the other games and stuff over the years, but never somebody to like take the time like, hey, we should make a game like that.
It's been a long time since there's been like a Turtles game I actually cared about, because I remember back in like the PS2, Cube, Xbox days, they started putting out a couple Turtles games. Like there was
weren't they based on like the Nickelodeon show at that time?
Not even that. That was before that. They were more cartoony based, but I remember getting excited for one of them, and then for them to be like, it's a 2-player game. It's like, well, yeah, but there's 4 turtles. Like, so it's dumb. And just none of them ever caught me. Like I played through like the Tmnt movie game. You remember that one when they did that animated movie? I played through that. Yeah. But this is the first one that's actually like, it feels a lot like an old one, but updated.
It does.
Like it's the best way to describe it. But it's
ripped right from the 80s and 90s cartoon. Like absolutely.
Well, yeah, even some of the levels are titled, the same as like some of the old ones. It has a very like Turtles in Time feel to it, but I really like the way it's broken up into like, quote unquote episodes. And like the world map doesn't really serve a huge purpose, but it's neat to see. And like driving the van and the blimp around and stuff.
Okay. It's made by Way Forward, right? The Shantae people? That's what I thought.
I thought this was made by the Temu or something. What's that name? Hang on.
I think it's Dotemu.
I should have known this right away. Yeah, Dotemu. Yeah, they're the publisher. And it's developed by Tribute Games.
Okay.
They made Mercenary Kings. They've
okay,
and like Flint Hook. So they did some of the like earlier like Switch type stuff,
like beat 'em up type stuff. Okay,
yeah, but they've done beat 'em ups before.
I mean, I'm sure the game runs fine everywhere. Like I played it on Matt and I played it on Game Pass because that's where it is. I think you played it on PS5.
Yeah,
I'm sure it runs fine on the Switch. I mean, it's not a
and this publisher, these are the guys that redid Streets of Rage 4.
Oh,
they did the zombies. They did the zombies and Ghoul Patrol like remake thing.
Really? Okay.
Well, they do a lot of that kind of stuff.
Okay, but this might be their first like foray into like taking an existing property, but then like making a new game with it.
I mean, kind of. I mean, it's funny to say that it's a new game because it really doesn't feel like a new game.
Like a new game, it just feels like.
But at the same time,
not at all.
It does. It just feels like a long Super Nintendo Turtles game. So, but it's really impressive.
Who did you guys play as when you played?
I played as Leonardo.
That's who I played as too for my first run.
For your first run, I want to try, and I probably will this weekend because I'm going to play more of it for sure. But I would like to try like April O'Neil and Splinter, and then do you unlock Casey Jones?
I would assume you unlock him when
he's not in the
yeah. But you have to, in order to like see everything, you have to beat it with everyone. So there's incentive to replay. Yeah.
Okay. It can't be very long. Like I said, when we played together, we made it through episode 10, and then I had to go do something. I think since you've both hit episode 13.
Yeah. So like this is definitely like the end game. I want to say there's 15 total. I think
that makes sense.
Yeah, so I'm pretty close to the end. So, just playing through the story mode first, and then there's arcade mode, which is just kind of like the classic play till you die kind of a thing.
Have you had any glitches with it? Because Matt and I ran across a glitch.
I had one where I had one.
I'm not laughing if it's the same one.
I was fighting something and got frozen. like kind of in
place.
Okay,
no. So Matt and I, I think it's episode 8. It's the one where you're in the air on the airboards.
Right? Yeah, that level's not great.
That level's not great, but like we beat all the enemies, and then there's a ship that's, and the only reason I knew this because I had to look it up. There's a ship that's supposed to come down and dump off more enemies before the end of the level. You fight the boss. That ship never fucking came down for us. We were just going in the air for like 10 minutes. We're just like, what's happening? Like, are we waiting for something? Like, I had to look up a YouTube video, and then I finally told him, like, we're going to have to just restart the level.
What probably happened is you had an enemy that got, like, knocked off screen.
That's what I'm guessing.
That happened to me almost at one point where there was nobody left, but I couldn't, like, you couldn't go anywhere.
Yeah, you couldn't.
And eventually, I just kind of hung out and moved around. And eventually, the guy came walking into the screen from the right hand side. But it was like 2 minutes.
That's what we did because we went to all the corners of the screen and we're like we're just hitting the air and like trying to do something. Nothing happened. So I was like, let's just restart the level. So
that level's a good, probably one of the worst things about the game is I don't like the levels where they force you to like jump kick stuff because that stuff doesn't seem terribly precise.
Well, that's the other thing I told Matt, and this is identical to the old Turtles games. But like, I don't understand when I'm on a hoverboard in the air and the enemy is why I have to jump off the hoverboard to hit them. We're both in the same, like, relatively same space. So like, why am I jumping to kick him when I should be able to just punch him?
It's a little, and it's just a weird because enemies move faster than you do in those things. So like trying to keep up with them and move around is difficult.
Yeah.
So like that level and then like the skateboard level earlier on, like those levels are the weaker parts, but any level where you're kind of like running through and just kind of doing stuff is really, really, really good.
It's really good. Yeah.
I
mean, brings back the memories of all those Turtles games from the 90s. So, and I mean, I'll say like, I didn't grow up watching the Turtles. This is something that came to me a little bit later. I played those games though. But I didn't watch the cartoon as a kid. I was watching other stuff. So, but I played those games because I had friends that played those games, and those were, even if you weren't a fan of the Turtles at the times, those were great games to play with other people.
Yeah,
and this is just another one of those, like
for sure. And then like I was telling you before that the other thing I really like is so it is up to 6 player. And it's very easy to like join a game. Like you can play with
random people playing, and it's crossplay.
Yeah. So it's a little weird because basically you pick if you want to play story or arcade. And arcade again, it's just kind of like you play until you die. And then it's weird because it doesn't tell you what level they're on, but it'll tell you like what percentage of the game they're through. So it'll be like 50%, so like half done.
Okay.
But it'll tell you like how many people are in there and who they're playing as. So I was able to easily find a game that already had 4 people in it.
That's cool.
So I joined that, and they were like halfway through the game. I joined that, and then eventually someone else did too. So there were like the 6 of us running around beating stuff up. Like it gets really chaotic.
Yeah,
but it's like really chaotic because everybody just spamming supers and like throwing stuff around. But it seems like they add a couple more enemies when they do that.
That would make sense
to kind of balance it. But it was fun. Like it was just, it's crazy as hell, but it's fun. And then like if somebody gets knocked down, you can run over and like feed them a pizza to get them to stand back up. You can you can like high five each other to cheer each other up and stuff in the game, which gives you like a boost. It's pretty cool. Yeah, it's just really fun. It's the kind of thing where perfect game if you want to sit down and play a lot of it. Perfect game if you want to sit down and play a little of it. And for it to be able to like just jump in and play with random people, especially in a game where like communication is not necessary, like under any circumstances.
Not for that type of game.
Yeah, no. It's fun. It's something I could see myself playing constantly, just because it's a great.
And I would also say like right now, like especially this weekend, next weekend is the perfect time to try like joining other people's games like that because eventually that audience will die off.
I think it'll hang around for a while just because it is a Game Pass.
It is also fun, a great game.
Yeah, and it's really good.
Yeah, but it does it for it. So
you're right; it'll die a little bit, but it's infinitely replayable
for sure.
So, oh yeah, for sure.
That pretty much covers TMNT. Again, we don't have anything negative really to say about it other than a couple glitches and really stuff. Good. So I can jump into some of the stuff that I've been playing. And some of this ties into E3, not E3 week, because there's a bunch of shit that happened and stuff that got announced. But the first one I'll talk about, because I can talk about it briefly, is Sniper Elite 5. For me, at least, continues to be disappointing. And I'm strictly speaking on the PC version of it at this point, but my buddy and we've just decided to wait until they patch the game, because we have yet to be able to finish a level without it just quitting out on us. And it has to be something with the game.
You can't finish a single level in co-op.
Yeah, like we've tried, we've made it through 3 levels. Every single one of these without fail, there's been a point we've gotten to where one of us has got kicked out of it. And so we have to go back, try to get to the checkpoint that we were at to finish it. I think the one that broke us was that we were on the 3rd level, and we were all the way to the end, right? And at the end of the level, you have to get on this boat. He got on the boat. My guy just froze, and that was the end. And like the achievement didn't pop, so we didn't finish the level, and we had to go back and play like half of the level just to finish it. So that was when we kind of both collectively made the decision, like we're just gonna wait till they patch it. So it just I don't know, like again, that could just be the PC version of it. I have no idea. So, but I just, for my end of things, like as someone who's played all those, I'm just disappointed in this one as it stands right now. So that kind of covers that. I'll briefly say, like, for this past week, I went so far down the hole on that Vampire Survivors game on PC that like I have my TV connected to my PC now in my office, so I can just play that game with a controller. Sure. And I played a shit ton. Like I'm on like the 3rd or 4th level of that now. There's a lot more to it than I thought there was for being a $3 game. Again, I'll say again, like it's the best $3 game I've ever played. Like it's ridiculous the amount of content that's in it. And then the other reason I hooked up my TV to my computer is out of the blue. And it's funny because I just said the other day, I'm like, man, I feel like they announced they were going to put Deadly Premonition 2 on PC, and it's out now. It came out.
Right.
So I bought it because I had to know. I'm a huge fan of the first one. I do own it on Switch, but it's such a broken mess that I never played it there. Yeah. So I was like, well, because by the time I was ready to play it, they were like, hey, we're going to make a Steam version. I'm like, well, that'll be better. This is like, it's both the best way to play this game, but it is also a terrible fucking port. So it's such a lazy port that you can't change. Like you can change some of the controls, but the default controls are the Switch controls. So what I mean by that is A and X are backwards.
Wow.
So using an Xbox controller on the PC, you just have to get used to that. You can run the game at 60 frames, but there are no graphical options and there are no options to adjust.
That kind of doesn't surprise me, because that game, back when it first came out on like the 360 and stuff, like that game just never cared about.
No, I'll say this: if you enjoy the original game for what it is the same level of we don't give a fuck that they did with the first game. That being said, it's fucking fantastic. Like everything about it, I enjoyed the first game. It's Twin Peaks, the video game, and this is just more of that. It's both a prequel and a sequel. So like the beginning of the game, you're playing as a different character. There's interviewing the main character from the first game, but he's older. He's like in his 70s. And then it's a flashback to 5 years before the events of the first game. So when you play those parts, you play as that character. Because they start referencing like events from the first game, but he doesn't want to talk about them. And there's like weird idiosyncrasies around that. So it's really good. But also the other thing I'll say that's like, you have to be in the mood for this type of game. You have to know that going into it, it's a very story-driven game. The first 35 minutes of this game is all dialogue cutscenes.
Excellent.
That you just have to sit through it.
But I mean, that's what those games are. They always were like, what you're getting yourself into. Like they're weird.
It's crazy.
They're made. They're made to be the way that they are. Like,
So it actually prompted me to go back and finish my last run of the first one. So I dug out my 360 copy again. I'll also say this: like the 360 backwards compatibility on if you have a 1X or you have a Series X, the greatest way to play that game, because the PC port of that game is incredibly broken. You have to mod it to get it to work. It's like the original Dark Souls PC port. So in that regard, so for whatever reason, the 360 version that they made backwards compatible, it's the best way to play it because it plays at a lock 60. Does it look great? Absolutely not, but it never did. Like it always looked like this weird, like it could have been on the Dreamcast era game.
It always looked like a generation older, like a late PS2 game. Like it's dark.
Exactly. And like if you look, especially if you look at like the original cover art for the first Deadly Premonition, it's not the game that it presents itself as.
No.
It looks like some crazy horror game, and there's horror elements to it, but like literally it's literally like that guy loved Twin Peaks and he made a game about it.
Yeah, he's hanging out, walking around, talking to people.
So I love and adore that game. So I went back. I'm gonna finish my original run, and then I'm gonna go back to this new one. I played like an hour of the. So I'll say this: like, if you've been waiting for a way to play Deadly Premonition 2, PC version's totally playable. It's just don't look at it as being a crazy port where you can do a bunch of graphical things because it's just a Switch game on PC.
Well, and these days, any game that is like a PC port of something that's been out on a console tends to just be a PC port of something that was on a they tend not to change very much.
That's kind of how from my understanding, it's kind of how the Sony ones have been too, like Horizon and God of War. And
but there's not much they really have to do to those to put them on PC. As long as they run the way they do on a console, those are fine.
But I think those games actually have graphical options. There's difference. Like this has nothing. It's just, hey, it's 1080p 60 if you can handle it.
Right.
So other than those things, I played a little more Days Gone. I don't really have much more to say about Days Gone. I think that it's a very cool game. I still don't like the protagonist, but I like the world. And I think the world is the best part of the game. So, and then I'll mention 2 demos I played, and this will wrap up what I played because it was, E3, not E3 week. The Saints Row character creation demo, so I'll go down and say, like, I'm a big fan of Saints Row. Especially like the 2 and 3 era. Those are probably the best ones. 4 was a good game, but it went too far. And when it ended, it's like, we can't do anything like at that point, except reboot it. So I don't think that rebooting is necessarily the worst idea, but
it needed to be. Like there was a choice.
The character creator, it's not as great as I thought it would be, being it's been 10 years since we had a Saints Row. I thought there'd be a lot more options. Not really. It's kind of like there's some stuff you can do, but it's not as crazy as you would think. And I also say like they have like you can have like I don't know what's it called, like a cheer and a taunt.
Yeah,
I don't know what the other one. Okay, those I think are kind of lame. The only one I liked was it's called Van Down by the River. And you're literally doing the Chris Farley.
I can picture it.
Yeah. And I thought that was like, that made me laugh out loud. But like the rest of them are kind of whatever. Like if you go back to like Saints Row 3, they had like a bunch of wrestling ones in there and shit. Like, I don't know. This doesn't happen. So I don't know. I was like, it's okay. But like, I'm still looking forward to playing the game because I want to see what that's like 10 years later under a new engine. Like that's going to be cool. The other demo I played, and you would think this game, I would be all about this game, and I'm not, is Metal Hellsinger, which is that, like, it's like Doom, but it's a rhythm game. So, like, imagine if you're playing Doom, but you have to keep the rhythm with how you shoot the gun.
Oh, I did see that. Yeah, I did see that.
I don't think that part of it works very well.
I don't think it sounds very well.
Like, when I play Doom, I just want to fucking kill. I can't do that in this game because I have to match the rhythm of the music, which, again, that's a cool idea, but not when I'm just trying to kill these enemies on the screen.
I saw a video of somebody playing it, and like, I don't know. It seems like you said, it's a cool idea, but it doesn't
translate well.
Yeah.
Like you have to watch like the cursor, and the cursor will move it to the time of the beat that you're supposed to, keep. But again, like that doesn't work. And as someone who's played, probably 1,000 hours of Rock Band over 10 years.
Right.
That I can get down to. This I could not with shooting a gun. It's just, I don't know. I was disappointed. Like, and it's a shame because I think there's a lot of goodwill in that game. So, but it's just, it's a cool idea. It just doesn't translate as well as I maybe thought it would. So that covers basically what I've played in the last couple, 2 weeks since it's been here. So I'll kick it over to you, Dan. You can talk about what you've been playing.
Yeah, I mean, I just kind of I've been all over the place. I played a bunch of random stuff. I'm at this point right now where, like, I've talked about trophies and stuff before. I'm just trying to get like one a day to kind of keep like a streak alive. Sure. So I kind of have like a bunch of random stuff that's always like ready to go to jump in and get a trophy. And I finished my last couple ones, which were those Lego games. Like those, I'm done. I did all the DLC ones, so I deleted that stuff off. So I had to find something new to do. So I started Minecraft Dungeons.
Okay.
Which I'd played a little bit of when it went to Game Pass.
Sure.
Back when it first came out. And I actually really like that game because it's kind of like, I don't want to say it's Diablo because it's really not, but it's just kind of like light. Yeah, Diablo light. Like it's fun just kind of running around and like hacking and slashing and killing stuff. It can be a little difficult here and there, but it's still fun to play. And then the other reason I picked it up again was we talked about the magical Walmart we had. I got it for PS4, like the complete version with all like the DLC stuff they'd come out to up until that point for like $5.
That's worth
it. So why not? So if I need a trophy, generally I can hop in and play that for 20 minutes and get one. But again, it's fun. And then it's another thing where like my kids are kind of into Minecraft, so they kind of like
they can easily play it
and they can pick it up and mess. They can mess around.
Yeah.
Other than that, I had this weird itch to play a Fallout game again, and instead of playing 4, which I've already played many times, or even digging out like 3 or New Vegas, I decided to just play Fallout 76. Which is a game that I've started like twice before. I started when it originally came out, and there was like nothing to do. Yeah, and then when they first released that NPC update a while back, I went back.
Gone back to it,
yeah, we played a little bit of it then, and that at least makes it feel more like a game.
Mm-hmm.
But I really wanted, so I decided, I'll play this and start over because maybe there is more to it now, and it's still kind of where it was where the NPC thing came out. I will say they fixed like the camps stuff better, because one of the biggest problems of that game was like they really want you to build your camp and build your settlement, which is fine.
Yeah,
but the building is jank because like you can't ever find a nice place to build.
It was in 4, so
it was bad in 4, and this just didn't fix it.
No.
But it's really jank because like you can't find flat ground, and like to build something, to like raise stuff up and all this kind of stuff. It's really annoying. But they added this thing called shelters. Which is really good, where instead of having to worry about like trying to build on top of the land and all that stuff and stuff clipping through it, you can unlock the ability to have a shelter, which basically you go to your camp and you build it, and you just build it anywhere, and it puts like a hatch in the ground, and you go in the hatch and you just have like a giant vault room.
That's
and
cool.
You can just put all your stuff in here. So like it's a big square room. You can snap things, you can unsnap things, like you can move stuff around. It's better because it's just like, here's a space, build in here, put your stuff in here.
Yeah, that's
like, you can't. I don't know if you can make it bigger. I don't think you can, because it's a fairly big room. It's got like an entryway and then like a giant room.
Yeah,
that makes that part of the game much more enjoyable, because if I went down there and I put up all my crafting stuff, I put a stash box, and I don't have to build like rooms and all this other crap on on the overworld. Like it's just everything's down here, and that way if I move my camp, I don't have to be worried that like my structure will fit in a new area. It's just in this room in the floor. It's like a hatch. You just go.
Okay.
Have they made a native like PS5, Xbox Series X version of that, or is it just?
It's still. I'm still a PS4 copy of the game, and then, I'm just chugging along through the storyline and doing all the story beats and stuff. But there's plenty of.
I mean, now
that there's NPCs. There's content. It feels like a game now.
It's probably like ESO in the way where you could totally solo that game.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I've seen people running around, and I've seen other people's bases. The first thing that happened when I loaded in the first time was immediately as this message comes up with so-and-so's launched a nuke, and then so like a nuke's gonna go off. But like that's part of the end game in that game, where like you launch nukes, and it kind of like brings out the big monsters, which give like the big loot and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
There are people in games that I've played that are over level 1,000.
That's not surprising.
That is a lot. Like that
it's been out for a while.
It's been out for a while, but like
the game has a community of people kind of like
people are committed. And then just to kind of jump into news quick, like they announced there's going to be
the Pit. I think
the Pit is back, which that's fine. I always thought the Pit was kind of a weak expansion.
Are those paid DLCs, or like how does this work?
I think it's just part of it, isn't it?
Okay, I don't know, because I know ESO you have to pay for each DLC.
Yeah, this one, if it is, it can't be that much, but. I don't know. I always thought the Pit was a weak expansion for 3, so I don't know if I really care too much. But it's nice that like they still seem to care, especially with all the other stuff that's on their plate.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, that was kind of the thing when that game came out, was kind of the promise of like, hey, we already know this game's gonna be broken, but we're gonna support it for years.
Right. And they have, to be fair.
To be fair.
I don't think it's gotten better on the scale that like No Man's Sky did, but
I would say even ESO was pretty broken when it first came out. Like that's a totally playable game today.
Yeah, it's 76. It's fun to mess around in. It was cheap. I don't regret it. Other than that, like I'm still playing Persona 5 Strikers and Wonderlands here and there. Wonderlands is getting better. I'm almost done with at least like the story, and then I'll have to do like the end game stuff. But like it's getting better. You unlock more stuff, like traversal stuff in the world, and I finally starting to get decent guns and stuff. But I'll play through this game once and be done. Strikers is still fantastic just for the story. Like the gameplay's good, but the story's great. I finished. I think I'm over halfway done now, which it's still getting good, and I know what the next like jail is going to be, just because they really kind of like tip it off ahead of time, and that one seems like it's going to be interesting to play. And then the last thing I played was, and I did it. I don't know why I did it. I did it just to kind of try it out, but I downloaded that Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl.
It's a plus game this month.
Yeah, it's a plus game, so I was like, I will give it a shot.
Do you have it with the voice acting patch, or is that not out yet?
Yeah, that hit like the day after it was like free.
Okay.
So I don't know necessarily what I'm missing. There's voice acting, when you like pick your characters and like they do moves. It's a little annoying because it repeats quite a bit, but I think that game. I think that game is pretty bad. Like it's not good.
Okay.
It's a Smash. It's a Smash clone with less stuff.
Okay.
And
a less.
The thing that really annoys me about it is like how in Smash you can hit up to jump.
Yeah.
Like that's how my brain is wired from playing Smash for 20 years.
Exactly.
Is to hit up to jump. You can't
in this game.
You can't. It's an actual like button to jump.
Oh, okay.
And it is frustrating. Like if I get knocked off the edge, my brain immediately like goes to push up, doesn't jump, and I die. I've played through arcade with a couple characters. It's just kind of whatever. I don't, I need to probably just delete it, but it's not great. It's just a Smash clone.
It's a plus game, so nothing was really
special. Yeah, I tried it. It's not great, and I'm done. Oh well.
There you go.
Yeah, that's pretty much everything I played. Yeah.
All right. Do you have anything to add, Matt, other than Tmnt?
Nope. Just still jamming through Sniper Elite 5.
Okay. And you're playing on Xbox, so you're not going to see any of the problems that I'm having.
Yeah, I was about to say, I mean, the problems you're having, and you're also playing with somebody, so I'm playing by myself.
Yeah, you're playing solo.
So I mean, I'm okay. The only thing I did have a problem with was the setting was turned on to where people could enter my match and snipe me.
Oh, that weird like mode they added to this one?
I got pissed real quick because I know how to turn it off.
When I watched the game.
Man, I was so angry for like a good 15 minutes. And I was like, I about almost lost my shit. And finally I figured out how to turn it off. And I was like, get the fuck out of my game. I'm just over here trying to kill Nazis. Why are you messing with me, man? Yeah, but anyways, yeah, I've enjoyed it. So
okay. And that's like the thing I'd say. Like I'm playing a co-op online, so I'm going to see.
Seems like it's fine in single player. Yeah.
It seems like maybe co-op's where it's broken. So, well, we'll jump into the news because we got quite a bit to go, and they just kept adding stuff each day this week.
Every day was something else.
I think, and I mean, I have to look at the bottom here, but like, oh no, I did add that. So there, we'll start. The first one I want to start with is not really E3 news. It's more of just kind of a fucking crazy thing. So I'll just say my piece on it and we can move on. So one of the biggest influences I had on even starting a podcast or have for years is Giant Bomb, and specifically Jeff Gerstmann, the humongous influence on me.
Yeah.
He has left Giant Bomb, and it was a really fucking weird thing. It was all of a sudden it was just one day, but I think it wasn't last Monday. It was the Monday before. So before all the E3 stuff, they just put up like a blog post and was just like, Giant Bomb and Jeff Gerstmann have parted ways, which is really
tweeted too, like, hey, tomorrow's my last day.
Yeah. And it's a really weird thing because like this isn't just like another employee. This is the dude who founded this website.
Right.
And this podcast and all of this stuff. So,
well, it's already after like everything changed last year already.
Yeah.
So for him to leave, it's just kind of like, wow, kind of a thing.
It's kind of like the last nail though, because like you had the trio of people that left last May, so May 2021, which it really kind of felt like their contracts were probably up. and they didn't want to stick around with the new management. It seemed. I mean, again, we don't know these answers.
Right. There's a lot. There's a lot of behind the scenes stuff no one's ever going to know. But
yeah, I guarantee you a lot of it is contracts and this new company that came in that kind of took over. But he's out. He's doing his own thing. I like. It's weird. Like so now that he's gone, I tried a little bit. I tried to listen to their like reasoning on the most recent Bombcast. I just think it was done poorly. And I'm sure a lot of it is we can't talk about it.
Yeah.
Like what actually happened. But it's just they kind of tried to keep hammering like, please don't leave. Like, please don't unsubscribe because this guy left. But like it's the point. I listened to his new podcast, which like I don't hate it. Like it's cool. But it's just him.
It's gonna
so
take
if you want to listen to just him, listen for 3 hours.
Jeff is someone I like a lot and I respect a lot, and he knows a lot. His opinions are.
I don't always agree.
His opinions, as like he is very himself, which is great. I mean, it's fine, but like there are people who will not agree for sure. But
for sure,
I mean, he's gonna do fine. Like his Patreon has already exploded.
His Patreon, I think, is the second highest video game one,
easily, if not number one. And like the Giant Bomb response to it was, like we're gonna add some people, and they've added people I like. They added people I don't care for.
It's kind of a mix.
It's a mixed bag. Like but as someone who'd listened to Giant Bomb for years and had followed Jeff since like GameSpot, and was there when the Kane Lynch thing happened and saw that whole thing explode. It's just a bummer. I mean, Giant Bomb was great, and I loved all the content and stuff. And like people came and went as it was, but there was always Jeff, and there was always for a long time there was always Vinny and Brad and Alex. To have Jeff leave and then to just think that bringing Dan back is the replacement.
That's the other weird part of it.
It's weird. It's weird because like he specifically left to go work for WWE, and then the pandemic hit. So everything. I mean, obviously that screwed a lot of stuff up.
Well, I will say, and I don't know how much you've listened to the content since Jeff left, but Dan has been very vocal about why he left WWE, which is the same reason most people leave WWE. So
he had no actual control over anything.
He had ideas over what he wanted to do, but they had to go through the man upstairs desk, and that guy just, as you know, Mr. McMahon, who's in a lot of hot water right now for other stuff,
putting out $3 million.
Yeah. Maybe Dan was the person who got the paycheck.
I don't know, but he's been very vocal about, hey, this is why I left WWE. So,
I mean, good for him. I mean, that doesn't seem like a place you'd want to work for very long.
I'm sure the pandemic probably hit too, because like he left in January of 2020, and in March 2020 the pandemic started. So, it's like, hey, I got this new job, but now I can't be with these people every day. So I'm sure that fucked a lot of stuff up.
Yeah, but I mean, he's very individually successful, and he's been doing great like on his own Twitch and stuff, and
he also has kind of his own brand, and you have to either like that or you don't. It's kind of the one or the other.
I mean, I'm in the thing now where like I like Dan, but I feel like nowadays I tolerate him as opposed to
I would say that I
don't hate him by any means.
I don't hate him,
but
no.
His brand is his brand, and I think it works individually, and I think it works in small doses.
Yeah,
but like putting him on a podcast with 8 other people at the same time.
Well, they did also say like they're going to rotate people, and it's not going to be 8 every week. They just did that for the first one.
Even still, like that's it's too much. But yeah, so like it's a bummer. But I mean, Jeff's podcast. I mean, it's not going to be long before people are on his thing, and
that's my thing. Is like I've listened to the first 2 episodes now. I mean, he's already mentioned on like some of the other people he's talking to, it's not going to take long before he picks up another person,
right?
To help him out. Cause like right now it's literally just that dude getting up at 6 a.m. on a Tuesday and recording a 3-hour podcast by himself. So, but it'll change. So it was more something I wanted to mention. I mean, I was with the Bombcast since it started, and then I thought about it, I'm like, man, that was 14 years I listened to this weekly. Wow. So it's kind of fucked up. The next thing we can talk about on here, I'll let Dan, you can talk about this one more, but it goes in line with we talk about GameStop, and we have GameStop questions to answer later. But
this is just
about the GameStop walkout.
Some mini GameStop news. I'm sure a lot of people saw this. Where just this has been happening at places that aren't GameStop too. This has been happening at a lot of places, but basically a store in Nebraska in a mall got fed up, and surprise, surprise, they got fed up with their DM. Direct management, and just basically tired of being disrespected, tired of being talked down to, and basically said, screw it. And they all quit. And they put up a fantastic note in the door that said, if you want to go to a place where people give a damn, here's 3 places. One of them's in this mall. So it's great just because.
For the mall? Is it another GameStop?
No. So none of these 3 things are GameStop. I think the whole point was to be like, don't shop here anymore.
Okay. Cool.
Because a lot of times people, if they're working by themselves, they lock the door to go to the bathroom.
I had to do that once.
It got to a point where I just did it because
there's nothing you can do about it.
If I got to the bathroom, there's nothing I can do about it. I don't really care. Slap a note on door says back in 15.
Yeah,
I don't give a shit. Technically, at one point they even said that was what you were supposed to do.
Okay.
At a certain point, I think that became like the rule.
Wow.
But apparently, this has also happened again in this same mall, like or like in this district. This has now happened twice.
So it's clearly that district manager is probably a piece of shit.
They, Kotaku posted an article about it where they actually talked to the ex-manager.
Okay.
Just talking about like stress and anxiety were so bad he couldn't sleep. Hey man, as a manager, I had days like that.
Yeah.
And
time to get out.
He notes he was only paid $17 an hour, which is only $2 more than entry level at Target next door.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which if anybody has any like thinks they know what the pay scale is at GameStop, let's break it down for you real quick. If you didn't have keys, minimum wage, no question.
Yeah, no question.
If you had keys, maybe $1 more.
Maybe
$1.50 more if you were lucky. If you were an assistant, maybe $2 more than that.
Yeah.
And if you were a manager, that kind of depends on how well you're able.
You'd probably be around 12.
Yeah, I would 11, say 13-ish.
Low, but yeah,
13. Manager, I will say, however, manager salary, that's on you. Because I know for a fact that there were managers in my district who are not very good at negotiating and made far less than I made when I was there. By the time I left, my pay was, I would say, decent. I'm not going to say what it was, but it was decent.
Yeah.
But it wasn't good for what I was doing.
Yeah,
but it never is.
No, and the other thing was, for a long time we were salaried, and then they fucked up at one point and made everybody hourly, which was actually a bad move on their part. But we were salaried, so they could actually like kind of whip you around and really screw you. Like at holidays, I'd have to work 6 days, 50 plus. So there were weeks where I'd be making almost as much as just an assistant manager made, just because of how much I was there and what I had to do. And then at one point they fucked up and made everybody hourly, and you worked 40 hours with mandatory 4 hours of overtime.
Yeah,
and they structured it in such a way where it kind of like matched your pay for what it was before. But by doing so, I mean that company is so anti overtime. It's
ridiculous.
Most companies are, but that place is like cutthroat. In doing so, they really fucked themselves, because basically when 44 hit, I'd look at Kyle and be like, I'm out. I can't stay.
Yeah, you can't stay.
If I stayed a minute, I'd get yelled at. And then, but some other managers would take advantage of that, and they would purposely like front load their schedule so that like by 1:30 on Saturday, it's weird, I have to leave.
Yeah.
So they really messed up a lot when they made that change.
For sure.
Kudos to these people for walking out. We stand behind you, our brothers and sisters, because fuck that place.
Yeah.
It's just like they post that it's the DM's fault. I guarantee it's directly the DM's fault.
100%. So as we start to dig into E3 stuff, apparently E3 is going to return next year.
That's
in
weird.
person and online.
I don't know why.
I don't know why either. I think this year the way it was structured was perfectly fine.
It worked.
You had your different shows. Jeff Keighley came out and did his thing. Like, I wouldn't say any of the shows were spectacular.
But I don't think the content would have been any different.
No, I don't think so either. And that's simply because of the pandemic. Is just a weak year for stuff because everything's getting pushed. So
I thought everything that happened this year was serviceable. I mean, obviously we're still kind of waiting on a direct from Nintendo, which
it
is
sounds
supposed
like
to be
there's going to
coming.
be one on the 29th.
And, yeah,
like
it's supposed to be coming soon. But I don't.
Which makes sense.
We talked about E3 before, like dying and like it's dead. It hasn't had a purpose in years. And like
it hasn't.
I just don't know why you bring it back now.
Exactly. So, but yeah, apparently they're going to do it next year. We can start diving into E3 stuff. I mean, it's or E3 not E3 week. It's going to be kind of all over the place. I kind of threw these in here all over the place,
sort of in order, like as things
sort happened. Of in order. But the first one I want to talk about because it's up here and I see it and it's a sticking point for me is the fucking Last of Us Part 1 remake. Because this is a product that is $70. It is a remake that, like, from what I've seen, the little bit I've watched, and I saw the reveal trailer, I've seen the comparisons. I don't think it looks that much better considering the work they're saying they put into it. But it's a $70 product that has none of the multiplayer component either. So you're getting less content for a higher price. And also, like, of all the things to remake, why do that?
Yeah.
Now,
I mean, I get it because it is
the TV show.
Well, there's that. It's it's the flagship thing that
it kind of is.
They talk about all the time whenever given a chance.
Yeah.
But man, for it to be $70, not include the multi. Like, to be fair, it has the DLC. Fine. But
that's
to not include,
not worth it.
But not include the multiplayer because they're going to sell you the multiplayer game later next year, probably for $70.
Yeah, no,
is insane.
And it's the fact that, like, it just doesn't look that much better visually.
No, and like, there's a lot of people out there saying like it looks worse. It doesn't look worse.
I don't think it doesn't look worse. It just like the visual upgrade between the PS4 and the PS5 version, I don't think justifies remaking it right now.
I don't get it. Like, the other thing I told you too, and this kind of leads into the next thing was, wouldn't this have been the perfect game to just put it on the Plus premium thing?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Very much September 2nd. It'll launch on the premium thing. Because if you want people to sign up for that, that's a $60 investment over what they're paying right now, right?
Yeah.
Right. Wouldn't you just do that, and that could sell them the game too? That way they're locked in.
How long do you think it takes before that game hits that service?
Next year.
Okay.
I would say at this point we're now probably at a point where minimum 3 months after actual release. That's probably closer to 6.
Yeah. Well, and that rolls into the new PS Plus tier system launched. Apparently, like, I guess some games are available to purchase separate from the service, but some aren't. Of course, those PS1 games are not, from my understanding.
No, you can. Some of them, yes. You can,
but probably not.
Like, Siphon Filter, you can, but there's the other aspect to that game doesn't work if you have the premium thing. You can't download it. It gives everybody errors. But, like, a notable one that you cannot buy is you cannot buy Resident Evil for the PS1.
Oh, the direct. Okay.
Have to subscribe. Mr. Driller, you have to subscribe. But what's interesting is all of the games that added trophies you can just buy. It's like Ape Escape.
Okay.
Yeah, all the I'm blanking. Siphon Filter, Wild Arms, those can be bought. They're all $10, which is
okay.
If you're gonna buy those, just buy the damn service. But it's a little weird that they would hold PS1 games back to try to force you to spend $120 a year.
Yeah.
Because that's not going to do it for me, especially if I don't know. It's bizarre.
I haven't upgraded. I don't think I'm going to.
I'm debating it because prorated it's $24 right now for me because of when mine ends. So can I play everything I want to play in that service in the 3.5 months I have left for $24? Maybe. But I don't want to pay $120 up front.
So your live is up in 3 months or whatever? Is that what you're saying?
My Plus is up in like 3 months. So prorated, it's like $25 if I want to sign up.
Okay.
So I'm kind of like sitting on it where maybe I do this just to kind of like so I can blast through all these PS1 games and be done.
And then just be done. Yeah.
Yeah. So I might do it and then see if they add like. Because like the list of games is good. There's decent stuff on there, but I feel like I need another huge influx of games for me to think that it's worth it.
Yeah, I kind of agree there. And especially like we were talking the other day, I think you mentioned something about like you can play Brink from PS3 on there.
That was weird. Like
I don't think that game's service still works.
Does that work? No. How does that game work?
How the fuck is that? Yeah. Plus, you're going to be streaming it, and then you're going to play that online with somebody else. Like that's going to be a very bad experience.
Yeah, that was one of the weirder ones where fucking Brink. Like what?
Like it's just an odd choice to put in there for those. So. But we can start diving into the not E3, news.
Oh, so here's a question for you, just because you talked about it before.
Okay.
What do you think about the Bloober thing ended up being just Layers of Fear and not Silent Hill?
Oh, you mean Layers of Fears, I think is what it's called.
Fears.
Another sequel. Fine. I've played the first one and I thought it was cool. I never played the second one.
But no Silent Hill stuff of any kind.
I don't think it's ready. I really kind of think like if those people are making a Silent Hill game, they want to show it and have it be out like in 3 months. And I don't think that game's ready. And also, like, you think about, like, The Medium was a game that came out in, in January of 2021, I think. So, like, you could totally get to, like, November, December, Game Awards time, announce a Silent Hill, and it's out next month.
Oh, I guess so.
You can totally do that. So, I think they are making one. I just don't think they're ready to talk about it.
Okay.
So, that's what
I just thought that was funny because
I enjoyed it because
they come out there like Bloober Team.
Like it's 2 days before that PlayStation subreddit was going nuts with all those like clues and pictures and stuff, thinking it was a Silent Hill. Yeah. And now it was just fucking Layers of Fear 3.
Did you like the other like gotcha moment from the Game Awards thing, or not the Game Awards, the Game Fest thing, where they were showing it kind of looked like Dead Island 2, and I was like, no way. They're not going to release the same trailer again. And then as you look at it, you're like, it doesn't look the same. And then it ends up being Goat Simulator 3.
Oh, yeah. I showed my girlfriend that.
That's a huge like middle finger.
Well, here's another chuckle about that. There is no Goat Simulator 2, right?
Right.
That's the joke.
Well, that's the other joke. But I
thought it was a cleverly crafted trailer.
Like, why is this the Dead Island 2 thing? And then you realize the song's not the same, and it doesn't look quite the same.
Yeah,
but it's like what a huge middle finger to those guys.
See one of those goats come out and start blowing shit up.
I loved it. I thought it was so.
I'll play it. I like the first one a lot.
Yeah.
So we'll kick off with the Bethesda Conference first. I think that was the first one, anyways, because we talked about Sony last time. Underwhelming for me. Going off. I mean, I kind of knew already going into it that it was going to be, because they're just not ready to show stuff.
I think it kind of showed you what you expected, and then. I will
give them props for having the balls to stand up there and say everything in the show is going to be out in the next 12 months. It's not.
No, it's not true. It's not true.
I will give them props for saying that
because, tried.
Yeah. Well, it's not true, because there's at least 2 games on there I know for a fact will not come out in the next 12 months. Most of those games probably will.
Right.
And so that's a smart thing to put around. I will also give them props, like, other than one trailer, everything in that was gameplay. In that whole show was like gameplay. Like, you saw what these games were like in motion.
Right.
It might have started out as a CG trailer. The only do you know what trailer I'm talking about that was not a gameplay trailer? Do you know which one it was?
No, which one?
Arc 2 with Vin Diesel.
Oh yeah, the little sizzle thing where he's riding a dinosaur.
And that was one of the games where they said, "Oh, in the next 12 months," and I said, "Fuck no."
Not a full version of that game.
No,
that might hit alpha
early access
or something.
Yeah.
Fast and the Furious arc. Fury arc.
Fast and Furious, yeah. So,
yeah, I mean, I'll just kind of run down it in order. So, like, they showed Redfall. It looks cool, but when is it out?
I'm not put down by Redfall.
Yeah, it looks neat.
I think it'll be like early next year, like maybe February.
Yeah, and that's fine. That'll make it. Hollow Knight Silksong, which is more Hollow Knight stuff. I've never played Hollow Knight, but I hear nothing but good things about it. That's probably something.
I'll say a funny thing about the next one, because
High on Life.
High on Life, which is the Rick and Morty game from the creator of Rick and Morty. So I learned today that was also a former Stadia exclusive.
Oh jeez.
Oh wow.
Kind of like the Quarry.
I think it looks dumb as hell.
I don't like Rick and Morty humor, but I thought that the game looked good visually, like colorful and stuff. Like that part of it I thought looked very next gen. But then you got these guns yelling at you. And
I can't imagine how old that gets quickly.
If the guy in his fucking underwear in Borderlands 3 got on my nerves after 5 minutes and I stopped playing that game, I can't imagine I can make it through High on Life.
Right.
So, then they had this weird announcement for Riot Games.
I hate this
which because doesn't make any sense. Like, I guess you can get all that shit for free, like the characters.
We got to shove all this crap on the Game Pass, and let's just keep the track record going.
PC, it won't be on
console. But it's on Game Pass. But let's keep the track record going of Microsoft having to team up with very problematic companies
to try and
Hey, who else is screwing people over? Let's get it on Xbox as quick as we can.
It's weird.
For people who like League, I guess they want that. I don't know.
I mean, I guess it's cool for people that like League and don't want to pay for all those characters because now they're just all unlocked.
Sure,
that's cool.
If you've got Game Pass, and
I also think it's an announcement that's too late. Like, is the audience for League still that big? I don't think.
I think it is, but I think it is. I think they live in their own kind of bubble, almost.
Yeah. It's just a weird announcement. Yeah. The Rat game. Plague Tale Requiem.
It looks cool. I didn't play it. It looks cool.
I mean, we've talked. I have played it. The game fell apart for me at the end with the good rats versus the bad rats. That's all you really need to know there. I think it looks good visually. The first one did though. So that's supposedly out later this year. So that's actually a game that will come out this year, and it is on Game Pass. Most of the games they showed here are. I think this was actually one of the most surprising of the show. So they showed Forza Motorsport, and this is just a ground up, new Forza Motorsport. It's not a Horizon game,
right?
But it's not this year.
It's weird.
That was the shocking announcement of it's spring next year. So they're still taking their time with it. But I mean, I will say for a game that's taking its time, it looks incredible visually.
Can you?
But it's a race.
Is that even a selling point for Forza anymore?
Well, it's the same as like Gran Turismo, though. Like all those racing games.
That's the whole point of those games. Is there? I don't know. I never really cared much for the motorsport side.
Yeah, I'll wait for Horizon 6.
I'll wait for Horizon,
or I'll play the Hot Wheels DLC, which was shown here too. So,
but how about the next thing? You've got Forza. How about Erza with Flight Simulator?
Oh, Flight Simulator! Now you can drive the Pelican.
Yeah, you can fly the Pelican around. We don't have content for Infinite. We don't have content for Infinite, but we got the Pelican for Flight Simulator.
Well, I saw a good article the other day about that. Was like, boy, Halo sure likes to help out with DLC for every other fucking game.
It's in Fall Guys. It's in Fall Guys now.
Yeah, it's in Fall Guys. Like cheats everywhere,
but you can't play co-op in Infinite.
So there's that. Then the other kind of like Overwatch 2 is free to play, which we kind of already knew it was going to go that route.
How about the bigger news where that game does not have loot boxes anymore?
And it's all Battle Pass. You can buy stuff, which means they can sell you those skins for $20.
Exactly. But I think that's better. I think that's better than loot box.
I do too, but I don't know. Like Overwatch was a game I enjoyed when it came out in the moment because everybody was learning it. And then like most of those online games, I dropped off of it. You try to go back to it a year later and everybody's always going to be better than you.
Right. You can't.
So, kind of like Apex, any of those types of games. I don't think the free-to-play like nature of Overwatch 2 necessarily is going to hurt it. It's probably going to do better for it anyways.
It'll help. But
That's out this October. I think there's a beta that's this weekend. It's either this weekend or next weekend. Next game they showed, I think it was a turn-based strategy game. I'm assuming I think it's on PC Game Pass. It won't be on console. It looks kind of like I was almost thinking like Age of Empires type game.
That's what it kind of looks like.
Yeah.
Era History Untold. I'll check it out because I like those type of games.
Yeah.
Then they brought out Pete Hines to talk about old Bethesda games because they do that every year.
Right.
So he came out. He had his little shtick to talk about ESO and High Isle, and then Fallout 76, The Pit, which we already mentioned. I mentioned it a couple minutes ago, but Forza Horizon's getting the Hot Wheels DLC. That looks fantastic.
Looks good. Yep.
We had our 30-second Arc 2 trailer with Vin Diesel, with these, laughable promise of it'll be out in the next 12 months.
Part of it,
What is Arc 2 with a story? Like, I don't know. One of the games, at least I'm excited about playing this year, Scorn. That got a pretty cool trailer. That's out in October. I'm going to play the hell out of that game. That's the H.G. Geiger, I like to call it the H.G. Geiger Pleasure Cruise. That's what that game is. Like, it's just the fucking sickest, goriest alien type planet. Like, even if you watch like Prometheus, any of that like goopy alien shit, like that's what this game is. I'm super into it, but it's not gonna be for everybody. The same publisher is making this really cool looking game called Flintlock: The Siege of Dawn, which is like a action RPG. It kind of reminded me of Greedfall.
Yeah,
that type of game.
I liked
cool.
Greedfall.
It looks cool. Greedfall is another one that's on my shelf. I got to play at some point. Another announcement. This is one I actually had show to my girlfriend. She's a huge Minecraft person. Minecraft Legends, I think looks really cool.
Yeah,
it's it's an action strategy, so it's not like what you think. It almost looks like Pikmin to me.
A little bit.
It's out next year. That looked fantastic. So they continue to do good things with the Minecraft license without just making Minecraft 2.
Right.
I don't think
I don't think you can make a Minecraft 2, but you can do this stuff with it for sure.
Lightyear Frontier was another one I thought looked cool.
That game
was another indie. Like, it's just basically Stardew Valley in space, but it's first person and you're in a mech.
Mech farming,
so I'm super into that. Gunfire Reborn was another one they showed. That's a game that's already out on Steam. It's a shoot 'em up roguelike. That game looks pretty cool. This was one that a bunch of people were talking about after the show, and I wasn't that impressed with it, but a ton of people apparently were, and that's that Last Case of Benedict Fox, which is I think
it looks neat.
I don't know. I just, as someone who plays all those Metroidvania games, it didn't grab me. So, but that's out. I think they said spring 2023. The other one a lot of people are talking about, and this is actually out pretty soon, so I'll play it, As Dusk Falls, which is like a narrative driven, kind of looks like a Telltale style game with a different kind of art style.
I'm kind of over these games, like Life is Strange and all this other, like.
I never finished the first Life is Strange.
That's the only one I finished.
Okay. I got to the part where the girl committed suicide.
Whoa, spoiler.
And it's a
spoiler alert, bro.
10 years. The first, it was the end of the first episode.
No,
it's just I just never went back. So, I don't know. As Dusk Falls looks pretty cool. I'll probably try. It's on Game Pass, July 19th. Naraka Blade Point, which I guess is like what is it? It's like a online, like maybe massively multiplayer like ninja game or something.
Yeah, I don't know. It's
out on Game Pass. I should say it's out on Game Pass, but it's out specifically on console on the Xbox first. June 23rd, so that's right around the corner.
Yeah, it's really soon.
This was another one people were going nuts for, and I'll tell you why they're going nuts for it, but like it does not grab me at all, and that's Pentiment, which is like it's a very narrative-driven game. The reason people are excited about it is it's because it's from the writers of Fallout New Vegas.
Yeah, I know.
And the people that love New Vegas, those people can do no wrong.
I love New Vegas, but like this game, I didn't see a game.
I didn't either. It looked like a cartoon. They talked about Grounded because they can't go in E3 without talking about Grounded, but it's leaving early access, which I didn't even know it was still in early access.
This game's been out for 2 years.
Yeah. September. So like
Jesus.
Ridiculous. There's some other, we'll get to the big two are coming here. There was something called Arabin Shadow Legacy. Don't really have much to say about it. It was another ninja game. Here's the big one. This was for me. This was my game of the show for everything, and that's Diablo 4. I think it looks fantastic.
That's another one, but that's another one where I was kind of like,
on the next 12
do you
months.
think 12 months? Really?
I think August to September of 2023.
Yeah,
is when you see.
I think it's a little bit past that. It seems.
It looks fantastic. Though.
It does,
like,
but I
think the thing that hammered it home for me was like they showed your typical like cutscene trailer, but then they came up and said, "Hey, here's Series X footage of the game," and they showed a lot.
Right.
It wasn't like 30 seconds. Like they showed like 4 or 5 minutes.
No, and it looks great. Like I love the idea of like events in the overworld and like things happen, and
I like that it's going back to the Diablo 2 style, like very gritty, dark. Because like Diablo 3, well, not a kid's game, is a lot lighter. I feel like
it was more of an entry point kind of a thing to the franchise.
This is like dark fucking metal. They had updates on Sea of Thieves. You don't really need to say much there. It's a success story.
More stuff. I mean, you can finally have your ship and stuff, which is something I really felt like they needed when that game came out. But
2 other indie games. I don't really have much to say. Ravenlock and Cocoon. It's more indie games for Game Pass. Wulong Fallen Destiny.
Dynasty.
So this game, Dynasty. This game looks cool. It's Team Ninja. So it's from the people that made Neo. I tried to get into Neo 1. I couldn't get into it. But this game does look interesting. It looks even more fast paced than Neo.
Yeah.
This will be a day one game on Game Pass, but it is on everything. So this is not just Xbox. Then here's a potentially awesome announcement, but then they kind of fucked it over at the same time.
Ruined it, yeah.
Yeah. Persona is finally coming to Xbox for the first time. So you're going to be able to play Persona 3, Persona 4, and Persona 5. Persona 5 is the Royale Edition. Only Persona 5 has a release date, which is in October.
I don't understand why they're not. They're they're coming out backwards, and B, why isn't it just out now?
And this is my argument with it too. Like, I can understand 3 because I don't think that port's done yet, but 4 is. 5's obviously done. There's nothing. It is a dry fucking summer.
Right.
Just put them out now. Do you know how huge of an announcement that would have been if
they're just going to be PC ports?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All they had to do was come out and say, "Hey, these are out today."
Or 5 is out today, and 4 comes out in 2 months, and 3 comes out in 4 months. Like,
I feel like they're going to do the Final Fantasy thing. Remember that E3 where they came out and they were like, "Hey, every Final Fantasy is going to be on Game Pass."
Yeah, but it ended up taking years, and they took some off. And it's just a mess.
I feel like they're going to do that. And then the final 2 announcements at Xbox, there's the Hideo Kojima thing, which hey, that's cool, but at the same time, it was kind of a crush of he doesn't even know what the game is yet. It's just an idea he's had for a long time. So
for a show that's supposed to be about stuff that's coming out within the next year, you get him to come out and I guess technically not break that because he didn't announce a game. But
sure,
but why?
Exactly. It's just weird. It's cool you got him to do something for you, but what's the game?
They did it to rub it in Sony's face, be like, check this shit out. Kojima's here.
Yeah,
and and rightfully so. The people online went insane. How could he do this to us? All this. Relax. He's making a cloud-based game for Xbox in a couple of years.
Well, you want to talk about people being upset on the internet? We'll get to that in a little bit in the news because there's more of that. And then the show ended with Starfield. So, Starfield to me was underwhelming.
I don't know what to feel about it.
I didn't go into having massive hype for it because I can't muster the hype for this game at this point. But it's when I sat down and watched it, it's a presentation that had highs and lows. It started with a major low, and that is just the footage was rough. Yeah, I don't know why they picked the footage that they showed for combat, but all of it ran poorly. Especially the gunplay they showed, I thought looked bad.
I think you know what the problem with this game is this is coming out next year and all this stuff now. Mm-hmm. It still looks like they're old games.
It does.
That's the problem.
It's clear they didn't create a new creative engine. They're just expanding upon the engine they already have, and so that's showing its age here. There again, on the flip side of that, the stuff they showed for character creation, the stuff they showed where they started to show other planets and that stuff looked
the ship, and you can build your ship and stuff is cool. But the whole time you're watching it, and and everybody said this after it was over, it looks like No Man's Sky. It looks like Fallout.
Because I think what happened is it's clear Todd Howard has had this idea for a long time to make a space Fallout.
Well, they've been doing this since Fallout 4.
And I think No Man's Sky came out, and then he looked at it and said, I can fucking do that better.
Right.
And that's what Starfield is. And that's why you see a lot of those very similar elements. I mean, look when he was shooting to get the minerals. That's the same fucking thing as No Man's Sky.
I know.
It's the same thing. But, I mean, I'm going to play it. I like all the Bethesda RPGs.
Yeah, I'm not against it.
I wasn't blown away like some people were with this
footage.
No,
it just doesn't seem like a new game. It seems like you took what you had and you put it in space, and you kind of borrowed ideas from here and there. And
it almost seems like a impressive Fallout 4 mod.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You know what? That is kind of what it looks like. And I think the other negative effect I think that this has for me right now is this makes me not excited for ES6 even more. Because now I think I know what ES6 is, and I think it's just this, but an Elder Scrolls game. You know what I mean? they're not expanding on it. Like 1,000 planets is like it's funny because some people are saying it's not enough. I think it's too many.
It's too many.
It's too many.
I think it's too ambitious, and well, they've already said too. They came out and said like you cannot fly from space into the planet.
No.
Like there's probably going to be a cutscene or something.
There's that, and then they said also something too where there's only like 5 major cities or something like that.
Yeah,
on 1,000 planets.
Weird.
Yeah.
You see a lot of kind of on those 1,000
weird.
Planets.
I don't know. I'll play it. Like it's not a question if I'll play it, but
it's not for me either. But I didn't walk away going, "Wow, that was the greatest thing I've ever seen." Like some people did. I saw. So
I liked Outer Worlds. I liked Outer Worlds a lot.
I did too,
because that was like Outer Worlds was funny because that was almost like
that was Vegas like Fallout. Yeah, that was like that's basically what it was.
Yeah,
it was a good game.
So,
that wraps up Xbox. Like I said, it was for me. It was underwhelming, fine. But it wasn't terrible.
Yeah, it's fine.
Right.
We get to Capcom. We talk about Capcom's chuckles here. Capcom. They talked a little more about they showed the same exact Resident Evil 4 trailer with 2 seconds of new footage at the end, which confirms you can move and shoot in Resident Evil 4.
Oh, we did it.
So the people that hated that aspect of those older games, you can shut up now. They did it for you. Then the more interesting thing here was all they're doing to Resident Evil Village. So for better or worse, they're doing a DLC for that game that is you playing as the main character's daughter. And it's in the future. She's like 16, 17. It's the most unlike Resident Evil looking thing I've ever seen. She has weird powers. They're reusing the assets from the mansion. I don't know. I'm gonna play it, but I'm very mixed on that aspect of it. They're gonna overhaul the mercenaries mode for that game. Whatever. I thought it was a bad implementation of mercenaries mode. The most interesting thing out of this package is that they are completely redoing the game in this gold edition, where you can play through the entire game in third person.
That's weird.
Resident Evil Village.
Yeah.
It's weird, but like it looks cool.
Yeah,
it's not gonna fix the story of that game for me, but and then they and this is where it gets controversial, and this is fun. They've finally announced the Resident Evil 2, 3, and 7 free next gen updates are available. Which this is a separate news thing, but we'll talk about it now. So I have tried Resident Evil 3 on Xbox. It's fine. Like it does what you want it to do. It has ray tracing. Does it really add to that game? A little bit. But Capcom put this update out for PC users for 2, 3, and 7. At the same time, then this happened on Tuesday. With this update, they decided to change the minimum specifications for anybody that owns these games. So now you have to own a DirectX 12 video card, and you have to be on Windows 10. If you don't have that, even if you've owned the game for the last 2 years or however long it's been out, you can't play your game anymore if you do this update.
That was weird.
And if you have Steam and you didn't turn off auto updates, your game probably updated. So also, if you're somebody who likes to mod those games, none of those mods work anymore because they're all on DirectX 11.
Right.
So this lasted 2 days. The reviews on Steam got to, the negatives because people are pissed, rightfully so. Capcom has reversed that. So they put out instructions on their website on how to go in and change it so you can stay on the DirectX 11 version of the game. So that's actually the thing they did. So it took 2 days to fix this problem. But my point when this happened, and I was talking to a buddy who does a lot of modding in this game, is how many times do you launch a PC game today where it asks you when you start it, hey, do you want to play the DirectX 11 version or the DirectX 12 version? It's almost like every fucking PC game. Why couldn't they have just done that here instead of force everybody? I don't know. So really weird thing. Oh, and also Resident Evil Reverse, that multiplayer thing, that's part of this package now. Whatever.
Yeah, but that was supposed that's so dumb.
That was supposed to be out a year ago. They talked about the new Monster Hunter for, I think it's Switch and PC, that Sunbreak expansion. Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak. They talked about that. My second favorite game of the show, and they talked a lot about this. I think this game looks like just a fun, stupid game. Exoprimal.
I don't know where I come on. I don't know where I come in on that game. Like I kind of.
It's Earth Defense Force, but with dinosaurs. That's what it is.
Yeah, I mean, if it gets put up on some kind of like Game Pass or something, like sure. But
they showed an airplane that's just covered in like fucking velociraptors like crashing, and they're just falling off of it. And like there's a sentient AI that controls everything. Like he's controlling these teams of people to take out these dinosaurs. It's just a batshit crazy. I think I told to my friend, this is a mid 2000s Capcom energy game. Is what this is.
Yeah, like it's exactly what it feels like.
It's really weird. I'm super into that. The other two weird things, they talked a little bit more about Street Fighter, but they just said, hey, we're going to have another announcement for it later this year. Sure, and then the weirdest and stupidest thing they did here, I don't know why they didn't just do this on the stream. Dragon's Dogma. They had the director of the original Dragon's Dogma come out to tell you there'll be a special video in 2 days about the 10th anniversary. He talked for about 2 minutes, and that was it. Now, we know now, since it's been 2 days, that video came out. It was like 12 minutes, but they announced they're making Dragon's Dogma 2. Why couldn't you have just done that?
Yeah, I don't know.
Because literally, I watched that 10-minute video. It's like him and a couple other people talk about, yeah, Dragon's Dogma was great. We really enjoyed playing it. And at the very end, he goes, hey, one more thing. And he like rips off his shirt and he's wearing a Dragon's Dogma 2 t-shirt. And he's like, we're fucking making it. Like, you could have done that on this show. I don't know why they made people wait 2 days. Like, it was a very weirdly paced, like, little showcase that it was fine.
Is there that much demand for Dragon's Dogma 2?
So, I don't know. Like, that's the thing. Like, it got me to the point of, like, maybe I should go back and actually finish Dragon's Dogma. Because I thought it was a cool game. And the community of people that like that game really fucking like Dragon's Dogma.
Sure.
But I didn't know that it would be popular enough to warrant a sequel. But if you think about it, it was a really cool idea at the time it came out.
It was.
Like the idea of like creating other pawns that other people could use. So, I don't know. I'm for a sequel for it. So, let's see. So we talked about the Resident Evil thing, whatever. Why don't we talk about, to get to the end of the E3, not E3 stuff, why don't we talk about Final Fantasy?
Oh, okay,
I mean, we all have our opinions on that.
So they dropped they had their little 25th anniversary live stream thing, which, 10 minutes. I'm like, all right, 10 minutes seems like a small amount to just talk about this
stuff. A couple trailers in.
So they start off and they're like, check out this cool merch, and they start showing like a sword clock, and you're like, I don't think
Did
this
they
is
show
why.
Your t-shirts?
Yeah, but I don't think this is why we're here. So maybe put the merch and the vinyl album at the end. And then then they hit you with, here, check out the mobile stuff. And you're like, okay.
Yeah, the mobile game.
So they show you like the First Soldier event, and you're like, okay. And then they show you that Ever Crisis thing, which is like kind of like what they did with that Final Fantasy 15 like Pocket Edition thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where they did like the chibi like phone art style kind of a thing, but this is like all of 7 crammed into this. So like this is Crisis Core plus 7, but like, is it going to have like Dirge of Cerberus? Like how far are we going with this? I don't know. But again, it's a phone thing, so like, do I care? Probably not. And then they start to hit you with the whole reason you're there, and I honestly think the more important thing of this show was that we're getting a Crisis Core remake.
That's the bigger announcement
for 15 years later. Like, it's a PSP.
It's the reason I bought a PSP.
Yeah, right. It's a PSP game that is, if you've never played it, it's really good. Like, it is fantastic.
It was a system seller for me.
Yeah.
So,
people like to complain, I think, a little bit about like the combat, like the mission style, but like, I thought that game did it incredibly well. Like, the story's really good. It fits into, the world it's in. It actually explains Zack's background. Like, Aerith is there. Like, because if you'd only ever played 7, you're missing everything that happened before it, aside from like what Sephiroth like reveals and like what Cloud kind of remembers and what Tifa kind of remembers. But like, Zack is a major character in that storyline, and this finally gives it to you. So it's really cool that we get that. And then, they hit you with what the whole reason anybody was actually there was, Remake Part 2, which is no longer Remake Part 2. It's now Rebirth. Which,
well, it is part 2 because they did announce that this whole project is a 3-part thing.
Yeah, but it's not. We're not getting remake 2, remake 3. We're getting a trilogy where it's remake, rebirth, and then whatever the third one,
is.
Refocus.
But this is I don't know. It's more of a. It seems to me now it's very clear this is more of a reimagining.
Yes, so
it's not a straight up.
What they showed. I mean, anybody who knows weird. 7 is significantly different than what happens next in that game.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, unless they're really talking and you get some weird voiceover stuff where, he talks about when he found Tifa in the reactor dead. So my thing is it seems like they're jumping ahead to to the Nibelheim stuff, further into when he goes home and they're remembering and the mansion stuff in Genova and all that kind of stuff. So it seems like we're gonna cut out a bunch of 7.
It's what it seems
probably Calm and Fort Condor and all of that's going to be kind of gone.
Which is gonna upset some people. It already has.
It's going to upset. And the thing is, but we talked about it a little bit where the end of Remake definitively changes the story. It is forever changed because things have now happened that never happened before. Mm-hmm. Is Zack still alive? It looked like it when it was over. And I think the very fact that they're remaking Crisis Core kind of tells me that he is still alive, because otherwise why put this new focus on
now they're going to give you that story of that character, so it makes sense.
So, and that's going to change everything, because if we get to a point where Zack's still alive and you're out there with Aerith, that's going to then they can play off the whole now it's a love quadrangle because you've got Tifa and Aerith and Cloud and Zack and all this stuff in there. So ever since 7 ended, it's man, they can go any way they want now, because Aerith doesn't have to die. It can go everywhere. So I'm interested to see where it's going. I'm more excited that it's a new game and not just the same forced retelling of what happened.
Yeah, and that's not the worst path to go.
No,
the thing that's bigger of an announcement here, and this is the thing that's
25 years.
Well, for sure, is that this is only on PS5.
Yes.
No announcement of the Remake Part 1 coming to the Xbox, but
you got your Steam.
This is important.
Yeah,
it's coming to Steam. But here's the important thing to know: Crisis Core Remake is on everything, including Switch.
Right.
So
that's a little weird, because that shows me that Crisis Core Remake is a PS4 game. It's going to be on Switch.
That makes sense.
But
it's such a weird thing to say that was only going to be a year exclusive and then never put it out on the other console. It's weird.
I don't know. I think maybe when we hit, here's the other important thing to note is Crisis Core is supposed to be out this winter, which then makes 16 next summer, which then makes Rebirth next winter. When they put winter 2023 on the screen for that, I laughed.
That's spring 2024.
Yeah, no.
Winter 2023 is when you'll get 16.
Right. And Crisis Core, if it is a PS4 game, that could make it this year. But I could also see
it would be this fall. And
I could also see it being March,
spring. Yeah, for sure.
So I think you take all 3 of those dates and think maybe there's 3 months from now, kind of a thing.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking.
Yeah, so but it's exciting that they finally showed it.
It is, because it's been this big mystery for so long of
how
what
are
they
going to do it?
Doing? How are they going to do it?
Right.
You kind of have some of the answer now. So, I'm excited to play it. I love the remake for what it was.
Yeah,
so
it's great.
And it's the kind of thing too where it's for some people, does it suck that they're changing the story? Sure, but they didn't take the original Final Fantasy VII away from you.
Right.
There's so many ways you can go play that. You can play it on literally every system.
Right.
So
go play it and then play this. I think this is better as a new game. And I think that you'll have Crisis Core to play in between. That's even better.
And I'm super pumped for that.
I'm very excited. That was one of those things where
for me.
Remember after they made PSP games, some of them would get PS2 ports. They did it with the Grand Theft Auto games, and they did it with Kingdom Hearts.
Those are actually worth a lot.
I was always really upset that they never did it with Crisis Core. I really felt like that would have been.
They could have told it. It seemed like a
opportunity. to move it to PS2.
Did they also do that for that Silent Hill game?
Yeah, PSP? Origins.
Yeah. Okay. So, but yeah, it's weird they never did that for Crisis Core.
Weird, but yeah, I mean, I'm happy we know more, but again, it's so far away that.
Well, we can jump into emails because we got a bunch of GameStop ones. I know you love the GameStop emails.
Always.
The first one, I put it on the document redacted because this is actually somebody who's a current employee of GameStop. So I don't want to give out his location. We'll give his name, but I'm not because his name's generic.
Right.
We're not going to give his location because I don't want him to get in trouble.
Right.
I don't think that's fair. I'll also say in the email when I was looking at it, I know what he's talking about. I think he worded it wrong because
we'll talk about it.
We'll talk about it. So we'll go through it. His name is Grant, so I'll give his name, but we're not going to give his location. It's somewhere out there in the ether. He works for a GameStop. That's all you need to know. He says, "Hi guys, love your podcast and especially the GameStop talk. As a current employee, I have something I want to get off my chest, and I figured both of you would understand where I'm coming from on this." And he put this in all caps. What the fuck is up with distros? And I know what he means. He doesn't mean distros, he means RSBs. And we'll talk about what that is.
We'll explain it.
Sure, this other store may have sold one copy of Minecraft on Xbox, but why am I shipping the 6 copies I have left of it? This constant every week packing and moving inventory around just seems like the biggest waste of time and money, and I feel like there is a much better system that could be implemented if upper management cared, but we all know that they don't. Sorry, I just had to get this off my chest, and I wanted to know how you guys all feel on it. Thanks. So, for starters, he's not talking about distros, because distros were like new product.
That would be stuff we got from corporate, from like the warehouse.
From corporate, maybe new copies of games that come out this
Restocks of stuff.
Restocks of stuff. He's talking about RSBs, which, do you know what that stands for? I don't remember what
I forget what it stands for, but what an RSB is every week we'd have tasks to do, and that would be inventory, or it'd be making sure the cases are correct on the wall and they're priced right. And this other thing called RSBs, which essentially was a system GameStop came up with to rebalance product among stores.
Mostly used stuff.
So
not always, but mostly.
Mostly used stuff. Sometimes new stuff, but it was a balancing act because they would try to get ahead of it and make sure that stores had copies of games that they needed. But whatever system they used just doesn't understand like sales trends or anything like that. So there'd be times where you'd get 8 or 9 of these. Sometimes you'd only have 2 and you'd be like, wow, what a great week. Sometimes you'd have fucking 11. It'd be a nightmare. Mm-hmm. But you would have to basically, you're shipping stuff from your store to another store to give them product.
Exactly.
But you'd get really weird requests where you'd have 6 copies of a game. Let's say something new. Let's say it's Grand Theft Auto 5, just for sake of argument. Let's say it's new and people buy it every damn day of every damn week of every damn year. And you have 6. Well, this thing would come up and be like, hey, why don't you ship all 6 of them to this other store? Yeah. And be like, well, why do I have to give up all 6 copies of this? These are $50 a piece. I'm losing money.
Yeah.
And they would never have an argument for why. They would just be like, well, this is what the system dictates because this is how current sales trends are. And then when we would push back on it, they would try to argue, well, you'll get credit for that. Your store will get credit for shipping stuff to another store if they sell it. And you'd be like, that's bullshit. You know it's bullshit.
It's bullshit.
They'd feed these lies to anybody who would take them. And, but if you had half a brain, you realize there's no way they're credited you for what you're doing.
It got to the point that me and let's just say our other wonderful key holder, who we very much admire and respect today, made the decision of like, maybe we won't send all 6 copies of GTA 5. Maybe we send 3 of them.
Right.
Because you could do that.
But then they would argue that like, well, we're tracking that. And if you don't follow what we're doing, we're going to get in trouble.
Tracking that.
The other huge problem with RSBs, and this isn't something that was really talked about in the email, but it's the biggest problem is like there's no accountability. So this is a common thing that like people may know, or you definitely know if you shop at a GameStop, but not everybody trades stuff in with cases, so we would have to make cases all the time. Mm-hmm. So if something came up where it was like, you've got 10 of these and you need to ship 8 to, a state that's 1,000 miles away, well, I'm going to send you all my bad copies. I'm gonna send you all 8 of my no cover or whatever. So it's like they're not getting primo stuff to sell.
No.
So then eventually, and then they realize that like people are sending bad cases, broken cases, damaged games, scratch games. Like again, our store, we were very meticulous what we would take. So like anytime when we would ship stuff out, you may get my generic cases, but the discs are going to be good. But whenever we got stuff in,
some of it was trash.
It's a shit show.
We defected out right away.
Circle scratches, blah blah blah, and then it always had to become the argument. It's like, well, why is it my problem that I got to deal with the garbage that other stores send me?
Exactly.
Like it's just ridiculous. There's no rules. There's no restrictions. So they finally started implementing this thing where it was like you could fill out like a report on if they followed the rules or whatever. And if you even sent me like one game that was bad, you got a negative because like I'm not here to take your trash and like you make more work for me. And then you'd be the kind of thing where like you'd have to take it in, move to defective so it could be shipped back to corporate so that it could be repaired. And then you get hit on that because you had to move something to defective.
Yeah, your store would get hit on it.
And then they would try to tell you, well, no, that won't hurt your store. That'll hurt their store. Again, that's a lie. Like it's bullshit. The system is not set up to detect.
If you ever got like I'll tell you, if you ever got system RSPs, which are the worst RSPs to do, you ain't getting good systems.
No, you'll never get a good system. You get 360s with broken faceplates. You get controllers with no battery. Jesus. You get them in boxes that are. You get them in boxes that are not the right boxes, or they're turned inside out and taped shut like garbage, and there's stickers everywhere.
Or a controller that looks like somebody threw up on it.
Yeah, they made so much more work than anything else. It's like, why can't I just sell what I get in?
And then I'm spending 20 minutes of my shift cleaning the system.
More than that, you'd spend hours. You have to spend hours dealing with this stuff.
Because I couldn't sell it in the condition it's in, but it wasn't broken enough to send it in. And if we send it in, it would just hurt the store more anyways.
People wouldn't pack boxes right, so stuff would get thrown around in there, and it wouldn't be in order. Cases would get crushed. It got so ridiculous. It got to a point where like you had to pack. You had to take a box, put a garbage bag in it, put the games in the garbage bag, put the paperwork in there, sign off on the paperwork, tape the garbage bag shut, pack the box correctly, tape the box shut. And if you didn't do it, you got in trouble because you'd get dinged on the stupid thing. And anytime our store ever got like a response, it was like, you didn't send this, that, or this. I'd be like, bullshit. And there would be times where I would call these stores, like, you need to check it again. And they're like, no, we checked it right. And I said, no, check it again.
It's in
because there. I once had a time where like we had to send 10 copies of something. It was probably something like whatever, some stupid game. We had to send at least 10 copies of it, and they tried to say that they got none of them. No, you're wrong. You know how I know you're wrong? Because I don't have 10 copies of that game in my store still. So where did they go? Like, but and then I would like stores weren't prepared for you to call them and call them out. So that a lot of times when I did, they'd be like, oh yeah, here it is. Timmy checked the box in and he got it wrong. Yeah. Whatever, dude. Shrink them in and email your district manager to tell them you made a mistake. Like, there's just so many people that just, we talk about it a lot. Like, I hated that place for the most part, but like, I still did my job correctly. Yeah. But some people just didn't try. It's like, if you're not going to do it right, then don't do it. Like, just delete the RSP. Exactly. That would happen. We do that on accident. Sometimes you'd be like, oh, I guess I'm not doing that one. Wink. Yeah.
Well, especially if it was one where you look at it like, these are all products I'm selling every day.
Right.
Why the fuck would I do this?
They would take new games from you sometimes too.
It's just hurting my store.
It'd be a game that had been out for like a week, and because you hadn't sold 12 out of the 14 you got, we're going to take them all.
Those 12 copies. No. Penalize you.
Like, and if you didn't do it, you get in trouble. You get a little note from your DM. Why aren't you doing this? Screw you.
So, I mean, to answer your question, Grant, out in the ether, RSP suck. They were trash.
They're probably, and like he talks about, like a much better system could be implemented.
Absolutely,
I'm sure there is. I'm sure they could have just. It always felt like RSPs. RSPs were never generated in real time. They were generated like a week before. Because sometimes you'd get requests or be like, send it all 3 copies of this game. So we already sold these games.
Yeah.
So what are you talking about?
Yeah.
They're just not generated in real time. They're trash.
For sure. We got our first Canadian email. We got a Glenn from Ontario, Canada. Greetings. I've enjoyed all the GameStop emails and stories you guys have shared, and it's what's drawn me to your podcast. You guys talk a lot about how bad upper management is. Well, that's the joy of talking about GameStop. Upper management was terrible. Did you ever have, and this is a perfect question for Dan, and I already know he's smiling as I read it. I'll tell you that right now. He is smiling as I read it. Did you ever have any district managers that got fired due to some of the stuff they would do or pull? Well, Glenn from Ontario, we sure do have some stuff to say on that. And I'll turn that one to Dan.
So the thing about being a DM at GameStop is if you get to that level, you're a yes man and a bootlicker.
Yes.
Like that's the only possible way to get beyond a store leader. Like you can be like I was and be a dissenter and an independent thinker and get a store, but you couldn't go beyond that.
That's where you're
right. Because then because anything beyond that is like arguments with your district manager, arguments with your regional manager. Like if you think DMs don't do anything, regional managers do nothing.
They're 10 times worse.
Their job is to randomly show up in your store, berate you, and then leave.
Jesus.
And that's if they show up, because you get calls all the time. It's like, he's coming. He's in the neighborhood. He's like driving down the street. He's cruising. He's coming to your store. And then he wouldn't show up. Like, so it's just like
that happened a lot.
Scare tactics and bullshit. But in terms of the DMs, it's relatively hard to get fired as a DM because the very nature of you getting that job shows that you're willing to do anything to keep it.
Yeah,
but that doesn't mean that they're intelligent. They make mistakes. They make mistakes a lot.
For sure.
I'm trying to think. The best story I probably have is this is the chess master again. And we used to call him that because
confirm as the chess master.
We would call him that
because he was constantly moving the pieces.
He would always tell us he was moving the pieces on the board, which would mean he was trying to figure out like where to keep transferring people randomly because he loved
that weren't doing a good job.
Loved to transfer people. Yeah. He once dumped what can only be described as an incompetent ass clown on us when a buddy of ours who was my assistant at the time, he moved home essentially. And to fill the slot, we got someone else's garbage. He was Kyle can attest to it. Yeah, and we were told he was great. Kyle can attest to it more because Kyle really had to deal with that when I was out for a while.
Myself and the other third key at the time, we were basically the ASMs of the store.
And I treated them like they were. I ignored the other guy.
He made a lot of very stupid mistakes, but also like he also like when you work at GameStop, it doesn't matter. Like for me, I could be an Xbox person all day. You have to be able to sell everything. You can't just go in and be like, well,
right.
You like PlayStation. Fuck you. You can't do that. This guy, for whatever reason, not only PlayStation fanboy, which is fine, specifically the Vita. And this is already at a time where this is already at a time where the Vita is already on its way out. So this would have been like 2016. This fucking dude for like 3 months, I had to get on him every time. He would talk a customer up for hours about buying a used Vita. And he would go over all the things. Oh, you can do remote play. You can be doing raids in Destiny. You can do this and that. And he would sell people Vitas. But here's the problem. Every Vita this motherfucker sold came back.
Would get returned.
So we wouldn't be making money.
Yeah.
And I could not tell you how many times I would have the same conversation with him when it came back. Like, I get it, dude. You like the Vita. It's a cool system. That's great. Stop trying to sell it to people that don't want it. Because we're not making money. We're losing money. Like, you can be passionate about that. But you can't, like, try to turn other people into that passion. Like, it doesn't work. So...
We'll talk more about him later. Like, this is about DM specifically. So here's a really good DM story, and this will kind of illustrate what it's kind of like being a DM. Because again, you can get to that position, you can somewhat excel in that position. There really isn't anywhere to go after that because like the regional step up is generally they came from like other companies. Like Pizza Hut or Disney, remember? Like they would come from like random other places that had nothing to do with video games. They had no idea. They were worse. They were tyrants. They probably still are because you want to talk about entitlement. That's entitlement.
Yeah.
So our district manager, like they still have room to be afraid of their boss because if their district's doing poor, they're going to get shit on too. But they generally just shove that on you. And then to save their jobs, they fire you because you can't retaliate. So perfect example of you might remember this one. So
I remember
it was early in the morning, and I was working in the morning only until a certain point because I had to go to another store to do their inventory at night. And inventories, you would go to store at like 8 o'clock, scan stuff until you were done and go home. I always did inventories because it was a good way to get hours for the week, and you could take a break and we'd hang out with a bunch of managers and scan stuff and whatever.
Oh yeah.
So I was working early, and the regional came in, and I think I told the story before where that guy tried to gotcha me. And I knew who he was, serviced the hell out of him. He only hung around for like an hour and a half. He saw me. I think I got lucky because somebody came in and bought like a system while he was there and got a card and all this other stuff. So it was great. Nothing wrong with my story. Perfect hour and a half of my story. He's like, well, I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to go to another couple other stores. I'm like, okay. And this is important to note that this guy was brand new to our region. He transferred from someplace else. Okay, he leaves. We always had kind of like a phone tree set up. So like the minute he walks out the door, I called the other closest store and be like, heads up, he's out and about, he's here. Or you call the other store the other way, like he's here, be prepared. It's probably gonna be the next 30 minutes. I found out later that he went to another store close by, same kind of thing where like everybody's prepared for him. So he goes, so we discovered throughout the course of the day that our district manager had no idea that this guy was in the district for the day, traveling by himself, scouting stores. He had no clue. And so we're at flash forward to inventory that night at a store that's about 45 minutes from here. And I was in the back room scanning. Another guy was scanning in the room next to me. And my district manager comes back, and he's not doing anything because he doesn't do anything. And he's just kind of like shooting the shit. And I said, oh yeah, so-and-so came by my store this morning and he was there for like an hour. And he goes, what? And I was like, oh yeah, he was there for like an hour and a half. He's like, I didn't know that. I'm like, what do you mean you didn't know? He's like, I didn't know he was in town. I'm like, yeah, I was like, and yeah. And then he went to his store too. And I pointed to the other guy, and he immediately turns around and goes, he did. And he goes, oh yeah, he was at we concocted this plan to like basically like shock his mind.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh no, yeah, he was there for like an hour and a half. He's like, really? And we're like, yeah. Yeah, he also went to like 2 other stores. Like, how did you not know this? And he goes, and he goes walking out and he goes up to the people up in the front and goes, did he come to your store? Did he come? Like, he was in full panic mode because, when your boss is out touring around and he doesn't tell you that, and that's not a good sign. I wasn't worried because I did my job and impressed the guy. Yeah. I don't think I ever saw that guy again, to be fair, outside of manager conference or whatever. We did that just to kind of scare him. And then that was when we realized the chess master's afraid of this guy. He wasn't afraid of the guy before him. He was not afraid of the guy before him. That guy got fired. Yeah. I forget for what, but he was just, I think what happened was they cut the amount of regions and merged stuff. And that's why he was gone. Too. And so he was afraid of this guy. So we're like, we could probably use this. I forget how much longer it was later, but eventually we had conference calls all the time. Like I had to do them every Monday. They were such a waste of time.
I had to sit on those.
Waste of time. Just regurgitating stuff that's been emailed to me all day. Complete waste of time. And one day I'm told everybody from these districts or whatever, get on this call at such and such time. Here's the login and the password. So I went back and I got on it early. And what happened was it was the same information they were using to host like a call before it. Mm-hmm. And so I wasn't supposed to be in that one, but I was. And I heard them talking about basically our DM was fired or like just gone. He's not with the company anymore. I think, they used the technical phrase. And I'm like, holy shit, what just happened? So basically he got shit canned because I forget why. I really do forget why, but it was something, he just was shit canned and he was gone. Yeah. It was probably numbers, to be fair. He finally got what was coming to him. That guy was also a huge misogynist. Treated the women in our district like crap, specifically the woman who ran the other store in our town. He would make her work far more than anyone else ever had to. And eventually drove her to quit, which was terrible. So that's him. He got what was coming to him. He's bounced around a couple places after. I don't really care about him anymore. I'll tell a game crazy one I just remembered.
Okay.
So there were a couple game crazy DMs were really hit or miss too, because it wasn't as big of a company, so our districts were huge. So like my district, for example, encompassed stores from other states. That's how big my district was. So like he would never come to ours unless he like really had to. So the first one I ever had was good, and then he ended up being a DM of mine at GameStop for a little bit too, until he got fired for being dumb too. But that's not a good story. That's just he was dumb. No. Eventually we got this DM where his home base store was like in Chicago or something. Okay. And it was he kept getting packages delivered. He kept getting packages delivered to the store under his name, but they weren't store packages. They just come to the store. And one day someone at his home store opened it on accident because you just get boxes.
Well, because I think he would say like, "Do not open these packages."
He'd specifically tell him, "Don't open the packages. Put them on my desk. Don't touch them." So one day, whoever was working just accidentally cut it open because you don't think about it. Opens it up, and it's just drugs inside of it.
Oh shit!
Yeah, and he's like, I remember hearing this. I remember hearing this is basically like he just kind of shut the box, and left it on the desk, and then went up front and called the police.
Yeah,
and then that guy disappeared. And then the guy we got after him. Then the guy we got after him was even worse.
Damn.
Well, because that guy was just a complete ass. Yeah, I mean, district managers they're trash for the most part. I will say over the course of my time there, I probably had one or two. The last one that we had up until the day the store closed was the best one I ever had because he came from a store and didn't forget that that's where he came from. Most of them, if they come from a store, immediately stop caring. They just immediately turn it off and go, now you work for me, you do what I say, or you're in trouble. This guy would work with us. He would understand us. He would come hang out in my store. You're welcome to be here all day. I don't care. Because he would help too. Like if he was in the store, he would actually help. He could
I'll say this. He wouldn't be like the other one where he'd be like, well, I have the credentials to log in and ring up any transaction, and then he couldn't do it because he didn't actually have that.
He had no credentials and he didn't know how to ring anybody up. This guy could do it. He would do it. So he was great. And he ended up getting let go not too long after the store closed because, again, he was too store-oriented and not corporate-oriented.
Yeah, that's the real reason.
So if you're in a store, it's just they're awful people.
For the most part,
hook up people that didn't deserve it because they felt like it was good customer service because they had no frame of reference. We talked a lot. We talked about the kid with the porno disc where he pretended he found it in the case and they gave him a free system and a whole bunch of stuff because they refused to listen to us, or the fact that I had video evidence that there was no porno disc in the case. Because they take customers' words blind, and that's a really bad policy to have because you give away the store.
Yeah, pretty much. All right, next one. Excuse me. Next one we got here is Chris from Chicago, so close to us. Says, "Hi guys, love the GameStop stories. I've been an avid customer of GameStop, although when the pandemic hit, I kind of stopped and started shopping online more. That's everybody,
right?
Like, pretty much. My question is, and I'm pretty sure I know the answer, but when a hot product would release for reserve, like a system, maybe an Amiibo collector's edition, would the employees reserve come out of the same pool of product, or did you all get to reserve your separate from the allotment for customers? I can't tell you how many times I'd go to reserve something as soon as possible, only to find out that it was out of stock already. I kind of figured that was the case, and I never blamed you all, but I was just wondering."
Yeah. Short answer is we didn't. Yeah. I mean,
the other thing we'll say is like we would get the first picks of that stuff. It is what it is.
Yeah.
But I can't remember a time where we had a product that we all at the store reserved and there was none left to reserve to a customer.
I don't think that ever happened. I want to say there was probably times where it got close.
We had 2 or 3 or something left.
Yeah. How it would work is, if it was something that was limited and we knew it was going to be limited, corporate in general would tell us ahead of time, like, you have 20 to reserve. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times they'd give us like a sheet to put up on the door or something. So we'd be like, okay, well, I want one, Kyle wants one, and you two both want one. Okay, we have 16 to reserve.
Yeah.
So we'd write a 16 on the door. There are, so yeah, I mean, it sucks because that is how it works. But I mean, that's one of the few perks we got was being able to get stuff that other people couldn't get.
For sure.
You know, it did work against us sometimes because there would be things that would be limited, like you had to pay for the full thing on like a web and store order, which would be like we'd order it off the website for you. But if you were the only person working, you couldn't ring yourself up.
Yeah.
So if it wasn't like your store gets to, but like the reserves are on until they're gone, you couldn't get one. So like there were a couple things that like we would get close to missing out on, and we always told like we tell like our boss and stuff like this is BS because like we can't even get them, and we're the first people in the store. Yeah. And they'd be like, "Well, that's too bad." It's like, well, you can't even try to take care of your employees this way. Like limited systems, like DSs were always the worst.
Those were the worst.
You know the Pikachu. I remember the Pikachu DS specifically. We had 2. And people came in, and the first 2 people bought them, and then the next person wants one. It's like we had 2, man. They're gone. Even if I wanted one, I couldn't have gotten one. You know, I will say that you know we would hold stuff for ourselves longer than they had to be held for.
Oh, for sure.
You know, we would tell people we didn't have stuff. That would lead to some problems when people were ignorant. A good example.
Horizon.
This is a good example. Yeah, Kyle.
Okay.
So I reserved the Horizon Collector's Edition for the first game, and hadn't picked it up yet. And the way reserves work is you have quote unquote 48 hours to pick it up before you're supposed to sell it. Or if your DM has your say no holds for reserves. That was always the classic one.
We never followed.
So first off, fuck you. Like if you
that's how you get your store fucked over.
Yeah, that's how you get people really pissed off. So we would hold stuff for minimum 48. A lot of times, if the game came out on a Tuesday,
like a week.
We'd hold it for a week.
The weekend.
Like you know, people are busy. They work. You can't just drop what you're doing and come in here Tuesday to get your game. We tell people when they reserve it, like, hey man, if you're not going to be able to get it right away, just call us. Tell us when you'll get it. I'll put a note on it, put it in the drawer. I don't care.
Yeah.
It wasn't a problem until they introduced this pick up at store option. Mm-hmm. Which was a nightmare because it would see that it was in your inventory and send a request to your computer that says pull this for this person, and it's either you say I've got it, and it'll send them an email saying I got it, or say no I don't have it, and it'll send them an email saying no I don't have it. So,
but it's up to that person to read that.
But it's up to that person to read that email,
right?
So mine was sitting in the back because I was waiting for payday to get it, and I got a hold request for it, and I was like, first off, that shouldn't even happen yet, because I think at the time it happened, it shouldn't have been able to happen because there were restrictions on what you could place holds on. Yeah. But I immediately, within a minute, said, no, we don't have this.
Yeah.
Told the guy, no, we don't have it. Sent it, didn't even think about it. Hour and a half later, this guy comes in. Yeah, I did a hold request for the Horizon Collectors, and I drove all the way from an hour and a half away from here to come get it. And I said,
we
don't have that. It's not available. He's like, what do you mean? I said, I saw your request. I denied it. I had him get out his phone, look at the email, says, we don't have this in stock. He's like, what do you mean we don't have this in stock? I drove an hour and a half. So you just blind said, yeah, I'm going to come get it. Didn't check to think the email that you got responded to immediately? Or even call the store or anything like that?
Right.
At least call the store if you're that far away.
At least call the store if you're that far away, man. Like, an hour and a half. Damn.
Yeah.
And I basically had to tell the guy, like, we don't have it. It was reserved for someone, and they have not picked it up yet. And he started to throw a fit. And then what happened was our DM was on vacation that week, I want to say.
He was.
And another manager from another store was like, quote unquote, in charge.
Interim.
Yeah. So the guy goes home and fills out like a nasty survey and saying, well, I put this thing on hold and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, yeah, it was denied. It doesn't matter if it's for me or if it's for another customer. Like, I told you no.
Yeah.
Not my fault. You didn't.
It shouldn't have mattered.
It shouldn't have mattered.
Yeah.
So then he writes this nasty survey, and I get a phone call from the other guy who's like, the acting DM, and I was the funny part was I'd also worked for this guy for a while, and he was one of the worst when he was a manager, and I was like a third key, and he was one of the worst managers I've ever had. He's the kind of guy who always gets promoted one level too high because he can't.
He also was like what I would equivalent to like a car salesman.
Yeah, smooth talker, but he was also he knew nothing. He knew nothing about video games.
The product he's selling.
His inventories were awful. They were always bad. I remember one time scanning games in an inventory of his when all the cases were empty. It's like, hey, where are all these? Oh, I don't know. That's weird. He would get stuff stolen all the time. He was just bad at his job. Jeez. So he reads this guy's thing. He's like, well, I'm going to give this guy a GameStop gift card for his troubles. I'm like, what troubles? Because he didn't read.
Because he drove an hour and a half without reading or calling? Yeah.
Or calling. Like,
wasn't it like, it was a substantial gift card too, like $50, $100 or something?
Something like that. And he wanted me to pay for it at our store.
Yeah. I thought we were forced to do that.
We were.
Or was that a different? Okay.
I was. Because, it's a DM decision. I don't have a choice.
That's stupid.
Again, it's another reason, like, ignorance pays at GameStop. Just, if you're a customer, just lie. Lie to the store leader. Lie to the DM. You'll get whatever you want.
You'll get what you want.
Depending on the DM. But yeah, so when it came to amiibos and stuff, like, but that was only a problem for a little bit when they got real hot. And then it got to a point where we had to do like orders for those through the website, and that thing would just crash while we did it. That was a nightmare. But yeah, it's we would do our best to
for sure
put an accurate number up of what we had available. The Switch was like that too, where we all wanted once we took that number out.
We got a lot of Switches though. I remember that wasn't the worst console.
This problem specifically didn't come up too much.
It really didn't.
It eventually changed to the point where it was just like it wasn't a number you had; it was a time period, and it was like if they don't get in within 4 minutes. Some other stores did it. They would do really, really stupid ones. I remember a bad example was they had something that was like website only or reserve only, but they it was the Zelda collectors for Switch. You remember this? Where it went live in the system, but since all of the stores on the East Coast open an hour earlier than the next stores do, they were all
didn't
gone.
Get any out there. Yeah,
they were all gone because everybody on the East Coast got them. And that led to this whole like huge problem of
it did.
Yeah, it was just oh my god, that was a nightmare too. But yeah, I mean, depending on what it was, we'd get restocks. But amiibos became a problem for a long time, and then eventually they just weren't anymore.
I would say amiibos were probably the worst
for a while.
When they switched it to that. So, last question we have, not a GameStop question, but I point out Alex from Westland, Michigan. I thought this was interesting. Westland, Michigan is the sister town next to Canton, Michigan, where I used to live.
Oh boy!
So cool. Nice.
It says, "Hi all. With you all being huge retro collectors, I'm curious, has there ever been a holy grail you've come close to and missed by like a fraction? And what are you all's currently holy grails for retro? Thanks." I got to think about it for a second. Like ones I've missed by like a fraction, I have to think about. I mean, I can tell you my current holy grails. I have two. One of them is fucking Dracula X. Mm-hmm. Dan knows that very well. The other is I would like to find a reason, and this will probably never happen. I would like to find a reasonable copy of Ghoul Patrol.
For Super Nintendo.
It's not going to happen now. It just keeps going up and up. I've only ever physically seen it in person once. So, and it was like at that time, and this was a couple years ago, it was like almost 500. So I'm sure it's only worse now.
I think that was the one at the MGC, right? That we saw.
It was.
Yeah.
It was. I mean, I have a way to play it now with that collection, and on the Super Nintendo Mini, I have hacks. So like, there's ways I can play the game, but like, I would like to have it for collecting purposes.
I remember when there was a time where people thought that all these re-releases and all these like things would drive those prices down, and it's actually had the opposite effect.
It has had the opposite.
It's made things worse. Yeah.
As far as ones that I've like missed by a fraction, I mean, the only thing I could count would be, hey, I, had two opportunities to get Dracula X and they were both fucking counterfeits.
Right.
Yeah. but I can't say like I ever like drove into a store because it's a different thing. It's not like a modern game or something. Like it's not like driving into a retro store and it's like, oh, this guy was here 5 minutes before you and bought this. Like it's a different kind of experience. So
yeah.
I don't really have any where it's like, hey man, I went to this store, and I missed it because somebody else came in. Like the only other time I've ever had a retro store hold something for me was that 64 Castlevania. And they held it for me. It's not like somebody else came in. So I can't think of anything else like I missed it by something. Well, you want to talk about limited run games? That's a different story.
Limited run is a weird company now.
A weird company.
You can order something and not get it for a couple years, and it's just
hey man, normal. Where's my Zombies Collector's Edition? If anybody from Limited Run's listening, where is it? Tomorrow it will have been a year since I ordered it, and I've heard nothing.
It's probably not even in production yet.
It says in production on the website, but
that means nothing. Things I missed. You might remember this one, Kyle, but I missed a copy of Mega Man 5 boxed for Nintendo because
I remember, but where was it at?
Half price, because remember our coworker basically hounded them into holding it for him.
Yeah, I remember.
And he would rub it in my face. The biggest problem we had with him is before I started working there, he didn't care about retro stuff at all.
At all. No,
he did not care. And then once he realized that I did, it was like a switch flipped in his brain, and he had to get everything all the time forever. And it was just really weird.
But I mean, he was mad hustling it too. Though. I mean, he'd be going up to the garage sales in the morning and reselling stuff. He would be
fighting the other resellers in town because our area is notoriously dry for stuff.
It is
because there are so many guys that do it.
There's at least 5 or 6.
There's at least 5. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when I see garage sales and stuff, I don't even think about it anymore because it's every time I've gone, I've never found anything at a garage sale. No. At the flea market a couple times, but those people tend to know what they have.
That's my experience too, at least around here.
Yeah, and or they tend to know what they have and think it's worth twice that. Yeah, so I don't even think about that. But Mega Man, Half Price is the one place around here where they at least regularly get some stuff, but depending on who's pricing stuff at that place that day, it could be anywhere from a good deal to who the hell priced it. Yeah. There was that. There was one time they had a Bomberman for Saturn that I sat on. It was $200. And I had a coupon, and I kind of sat on it, and then one day, and then finally I was like, I think I'm going to do it because I had the coupon, and I went in there and it was gone. So I haven't really missed too much, but sometimes I'll see stuff that I'm like, man, I probably should pull the trigger, and I don't. In terms of a grail right now, just because I like the Super Nintendo so much, I'd really like a copy of Harvest Moon for Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've talked to Kyle about this before, but I have that copy of Musha for Genesis that I'm not a huge Genesis guy, so I'd probably, if I could get a boxed Harvest Moon out of that somehow and make the numbers work, I would probably. I don't even know what the value of each one of them is to each other anymore, but I would probably do a trade for a complete Harvest Moon for Super Nintendo. I would trade a Musha for Genesis, since that would mean more to me, being a Super Nintendo guy.
I mean, the only other thing I'd say for me is the other series I'll start collecting for a lot too is the East games, the older ones.
Oh,
some of those get pretty pricey, but I love that series. So, how about you, Matt?
Only thing I could think of is when one of my best friends had me go pick up Super Mario Legend of the Seven Stars for him because he got it on a Facebook deal where the lady was selling it that and a couple other games for $20 or something like that.
Oof, man.
And he was like, "Hey man, are you busy today?" And I was like, "Nah, I'm off." And he was like, "Can you go pick this up for me?" And I was like, "Dude, really? I've been looking for this and you ain't even gonna say nothing?" And he was like, "Well, I've been looking for it too." And I was like, "Man." And I was like, "And then you're gonna make me go get it for you?" I was like, all right. But I mean, I ended up getting a copy of that by myself, so
should have been man, I got there. It's gone. Didn't have it. Really weird. She couldn't find it.
So really but I actually, when I went to that lady's house, I ended up buying her everything she had because the other stuff in it was okay, but it wasn't nothing crazy. But I know everybody was going after Super Mario, so I was like, I'll just buy the rest of this from you. That way you just don't have to worry about people trying to poach you.
For the price, I mean, especially if the price is right and she's willing to get rid of it.
Yeah.
Pick it up.
As far as now, I don't really have any like grails I'm really looking for. The only thing that I'm looking for now, it's not really a grail. Like it's not pricey. I just don't really want to pay eBay price for it. Is a Jade Cocoon.
Okay.
I kind of got a remembrance of that one, and I was like, you know what? Okay. I do want to find that one if I can out and about. So I mean, even if I don't, like, I just don't want to pay. I don't want to buy it on eBay if I don't have to.
That's the other thing too. Is like the other grails I have is like I have most Final Fantasy games that are out now. I would like to get the rest of them boxed. Like I don't have any of the Game Boy ones boxed. Like I have all the advanced ones boxed, like all the DS ones. Everything else is completely set, like the Game Boy ones. So like, but at this point, it's probably easier or smarter to just buy a complete box copy and sell the game than it is to try to find a box in a manual.
Probably.
Yeah.
What about like garage sales by you? Like, is it better than where it is where we are? Because like where we are, like I said, we have a group of like I don't know about my town now.
Games at the most is what I see.
Yeah. So it's not horrible. I when I go to garage sales, I ask everybody if they have anything they want to sell.
Right.
So that's the first thing I normally say. Do you have any old video game systems or video games you want to sell? Because I mean, the benefit is being in the South, some of these people live out in the country and they collect stuff. So, I mean,
they don't care.
I'm bound to come across somebody who's like, yeah, I've got this whole Nintendo lot I could sell for $12. You know what I mean? And I'm like, yeah I'll pick that up. But the downfall is I do have a lot of resellers in the area. So they potentially pick through everything they possibly can. Like I don't really go to flea markets, but we also don't really have a retro video game store in the area that can takes trades that might have like cool things. Like if I want to go find anything, I have to go at least an hour and a half away to try and find something. So I did find there's one store about an hour away now where I'm going to take a bunch of my loose discs games that I got for free and see if I can get credit to go buy just, maybe something there. Yeah. Just because I'm never going to use them or play them, and I might as well go ahead and get rid of them if I can.
Right.
Yeah. But it was a lot better a couple of years ago than it is now. It's just, video game buying is just so...
It's crazy now.
It's like everybody thinks Super Mario, like the OG Super Mario, is like $45.
It's not.
And I'm like, that game is so readily available everywhere. That's not a price tag. Like that's not sufficeable. So, I mean, I don't know. I still go out and look. I don't have high hopes anymore.
Yeah. So. If I'm looking casually in the area, like I'll hit up Half Price just to kind of see. The one by me has the prices have stabilized and kind of fallen back below market value. So like I did get some Super Nintendo games there a couple months ago, like some weird older like RPG ones that I never had before, like Dungeon Master and something else, and they were both like I think I got them for like 20% less than like what you would expect to pay. So that was kind of nice. That was kind of nice for them to have something for Super Nintendo, worth getting, and B, to find them under market value. I'm not super opposed to paying market value when it's for something I'm interested in.
Right.
Yeah.
But so but like sometimes like this Half Price they'll go insane and stuff will be twice what it's worth. And it's literally just because of who priced it that day.
Yeah.
Like, it's that place is weird. But if I'm casually looking, I'll make it a point to go there and just kind of look around. But like you, the closest video game store to me is...
It's like an hour.
At least an hour. The other one's an hour and a half.
Yeah. And then if I like to go to the south from us, it's 2 hours away.
Right. Well, that's farther for you now than it is for me. But like if I want to go north of us, it's at least another hour and a half that way. So like it's tough because I can't just go to a video. We used to have one in town. Relatively, it was kind of just down the road, but it was bad. It wasn't. It was the guy who ran it. I don't even know if he was. I told Kyle this story once, but I went to that store like 10 minutes after open once. Door was open. I walked in, open signs on, nobody there. I was in that store. I was in that store by myself for probably 15 minutes. I was in that store so long by myself that somebody else came in after me and thought I worked there because no one else was there.
This same scenario happened to me a couple of weeks ago when I went go and do a couple different guitar stores. I went to one that's like maybe 2 towns over from us. I walked into the store. I looked around for like 10 minutes. I saw no one.
Yeah,
I could have easily just taken it. Like, I'm talking like these guitars are like $1,200 on the wall. Like I could easily just took one and walked out.
Yeah, this place had like a wire like bin of Super Nintendo games. I could have just grabbed handfuls and started walking out the door.
Exactly.
And then finally after this other guy came in, I was like, look, man, I don't work here and I don't know if anybody's even here. 10 minutes later, some guy comes stumbling out of the back, like his mind blown that people were in the store. But I never really found anything good at that place.
Yeah,
it was always
I never did either.
Garbage.
So.
Yeah, like that's how it was here. We had one for a while, but the store smelled so bad. Like, it smelled like, no offense, your mother's basement after a Halo LAN party of all weekend. It was like, it's just the worst. And like, you'd walk in and just get hit with it. But like, he didn't have horrible stuff, but it was just unmanageable to be in that place.
And it's sad too when like those are your options, because I went on a vacation a couple months ago to Iowa, and while we were staying there, I looked it up and I found one that was like relatively close to where we were staying. I was like, all right, I'm going to run over there and check it out. The place was great. It had cool stuff I hadn't seen before. Prices were good. The guys working the counter were great. You know, I got good copies of everything. I was like, damn, dude, I can't have this by us. Like, damn.
Yeah.
Like, I'd be in there all the time looking at stuff.
I'll say my best luck around here, and I have not been to one since the pandemic, but I'm kind of hoping this year. They run it twice a year. We have what's called an all-night flea market.
Yeah, and you've gotten some good stuff there. It's
fucking incredible. I've gone 3 times, and like I said, then pandemic hit. I think they had it last year, but obviously we didn't.
I think they did because I saw it come up.
I really want to go this year.
And there is another place that you and I have not been to, Kyle. That's like it's like an indoor flea market. It's like an indoor flea market. I think I've shown it to you before. Where I see the guy post stuff online all the time where it's like it's got racks of stuff. I'm sure it's all generic, overpriced stuff, but you know it's worth it to go look. Yeah, so like one day when you're free and I'm free, we should just go check it out on a weekend.
But that flea market, I think I want to do it this year. So because I've gone,
you found good stuff.
It used to be an annual thing. I've gotten good shit from
good Xbox stuff there. Yeah,
good Xbox stuff, good PS1 stuff. So, yep. So, but anyways, that's gonna cover it for this edition of the podcast. We, as always, send your questions to podcast572@gmail.com, especially your GameStop questions, but anything at all. I mean, if it's a retro question or something too, please send it in.
Game Crazy too, if you remember.
Game Crazy, yeah.
I would love to hear. I'd love to hear people who remember Game Crazy because I worked there for 7 years.
Well, you've heard it here, so maybe somebody will.
I hope so.
Hopefully, but as always, we'll be back in the next 2 weeks here to talk more about what's going on in the world of video games. So thank you for listening and have a great weekend.
Thank you, everyone.
Whenever you listen.
Take care.